Welcome to me, where suspenseful, thrilling, and mysterious stories will draw you into a world where the lines between reality and fantasy seem to blur. When the night falls, when all the sounds gradually quiet down, leaving only your own heartbeat and breathing, that's when these stories begin. Tensions, unsolved mysteries, moments that will make you hold your breath in fear or curiosity, all are waiting for you ahead. Find a comfortable seat, dim the lights, and let this sound guide you on a journey that is not for the faint of heart. I want each of you to leave a comment sharing where you are in the world. And if you are enjoying the episodes, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel now. Relax. Are you ready? If so, join me in the first story right now. Clay pigeons. It was 3 days since you last called. No, I should clarify, since you answered. Since you answered your damn phone and stopped breaking protocol. And it's not like you didn't know the rules. You needed to check in once every day. Not every 24 hours. Every day. Thursday before midnight, and then Friday, just as the day turned, counted as 2 check-ins. Yet you never stretched it like that. Always called at noon sharp. Another day where you were human and in vicinity of your landline. Mark had been huffing and puffing since day 2. But I assured him this wasn't like you, that something big and horrible and terrible must have happened. Maybe you were laying prone on the floor of your living room, and I was sheltered here, wondering why you weren't calling, while I should have been the one calling for help. By day 3, I was spiraling. You were caught in a trap. You were dismembered and possibly disemboweled. You had lost all sanity and feeling. Mark warned me that 24 hours more and we would need to call in control. I snapped and informed him I was perfectly aware of that, as well as I was perfectly aware of what control would do to you. I pleaded with him to give me your address. It was against every rule in the book, but I was sure he would understand. After all, you had been so diligent with it all. We never had to ask you for anything. You always did your check-ins and checkups by yourself. The phone kept ringing. By day 4, he relented. The first thing I noticed was the curtains. They were green and closed shut. A flyer was on your porch, flapping furiously in the wind. Its pages turned, advertising deals in meat and shampoo. Your house was straw, with flaying blue paint and a wraparound porch. You had plants, and their leaves were dropping in thirst. I knocked on your door twice. You had one of these old-looking knockers, leaving the smell of iron lingering in my fingernails. I don't know what I expected. A hovel, perhaps, or a burrow hole, but everything looked very human to me. Or maybe it was all an act, and you were living in the garden hut. I circled the house, looking for any signs of life, and found none. Wind chimes were swaying softly in the distance, filling the air with a clicking sound. It sounded like a clock counting down. I knew I shouldn't, and under any other circumstances, I wouldn't, but I pressed my nose to your windows, one by one, hoping for any movement or sound from within. I found myself scanning the air for the smell of your dead body, but then I stopped. Maybe I was giving you too much credit. Maybe it was all an act, and you were all the way to the border by now. Mark had given me the security key. All agency-approved houses had one, even though you never knew. It must have been horrible to know that someone could enter your house at any time. Or at least, that was what Mark had said when I asked him, and then chose not to ask anything more. The door creaked, letting in an arc of sunlight. The first thing I noticed was the mirror on the floor, shards spreading in almost a perfect diameter. The second thing I noticed was the pigeon. It flapped furiously around the couch, leaving talon marks on the fabric. The couch matched the curtains, was the first thought I had. The second one was that it was you. Veronica? I asked, and my voice trembled, because this didn't make sense. And then the pigeon talked, and it was you. Amelia! And the pigeon couldn't cry, but I swear I heard its voice break. Amelia, I can't turn back. I closed the door behind me and reached for the light switch. What do you mean you can't turn back? I can't turn back, you echoed, and flew to the mirror. Your image multiplied in each shard until 3, 4. A flock of pigeons were staring back at me. I don't know why. You paused for a second and hoped from one tiny foot to the other. I can't remember how I look like anymore. Veronica, this is nonsense, I said, because I had to stick to protocol. It was our only chance to avoid control, after all. Have you tried your memory exercises? You have been so diligent with them. The pigeon huffed. You think I don't know that? And something about it startled me to my core. There was this animal, barely reaching up to my ankle. Yet, it was you, the 40-something woman to survive the shifting experiments, turning from a mole to a lion in the blink of an eye, and then back to human again. You had survived the monitors and the testing and the labs, only to be stuck as a pigeon. This was ridiculous. I got to my knees because, frankly, it was embarrassing to have to look down to see you. Veronica, control will be here in less than 6 hours. We need to prove them you are lucid, and most of all, human. Maybe it was because you were less than a foot tall, but your voice was very small all of a sudden. I am perfectly lucid, Amelia. As for human, there was a sound that might have been a laugh. I simply don't know how to be that anymore. Don't say that, I gasped. At least don't say that out loud. There was a long silence. And then, can I trust you? I almost laughed. You could turn into a bear if you wanted. Tear me in half. I broke into your house. I have been monitoring you every single day for the past 5 years. I was trying to beat control in its own game. The wind chime kept ringing. I can help you if you want. I all but ignored your question. I had been nothing but a surveillance camera to you for half a decade. But you have to promise me that you will turn back. Help me how? I can call the agency for you. You can do the speaking. I paused for a second. This is the reason you haven't called, right? Because you don't have, limbs? You can't pick up the phone? I sounded irrational, even to my own ears. Of course, the pigeon couldn't pick up the damn landline. It had no hands. You would do that? I would. But only if you promise to turn back by nightfall. Your voice cracked. I don't know if I can promise that. I don't know how to do that. I don't remember my own face. Nonsense, I called again. I will help you remember your face just fine. And I picked up the landline. Mark was confused, but relieved. Remarked how I had worried for nothing. And maybe I hadn't reached you yet. But as soon as you show me, you had to tell me to turn back and stop being such a fool. That everything was okay. And you were fine. And everything was fine. And nothing would go wrong ever again. He sounded like a preacher, promising heaven to killers. In short, a whole load of bullshit. When he finally hung up, you flew up to the curtain rod. Why would you do that? You asked. And it was a brilliant question, because I hadn't the slightest idea myself. You know what control would do to you otherwise? My voice was small. I had to look up to you now. You huffed. The collar. I know. Everyone knew. It was a terrible, horrible thing, blocking any shifting until deemed appropriate again. Stuck as a human forever. Surely not such a terrible fate, as I had been stuck as a human from the moment I was born, and would likely remain one forever. Yet, why be a human forever, when you could be a different beast every hour? Yet, why be human at all? A small voice always echoed in the back of my mind. But once again, I pushed it down. Envy was one thing. Self-hatred was another. Now, let's find your face. I clapped my hands, sounding like a school teacher. This encounter had to take a pleasant turn somehow, even if I had to grab it by the reins to do so. I had never seen your face myself. To me, you were just Veronica, a first name on a paper, and occasionally a voice in my ear. You were also a string of numbers and letters, a barcode detailing you as one of the few survivors. But you didn't need to know that. Do you have any family photos? Phone backgrounds? My voice trailed in the quiet of the house. He hit me. It all went still. Excuse me? He hit me. Your voice is steadier now. He hit me, and I needed a way out. I figured I could fly, but then he shot me, and this is when I noticed that every feather on the floor is laced with your blood. And the smell I had been ignoring is there. It is tangy and metallic. You laugh. It is a desperate sound, coming out more like a croak. I had never heard an animal make a sound like that. Yet here you are. I guess you could say I asked for it, turned myself into a clay pigeon, a perfect target for him to shoot at. Nonsense, I snap. Don't talk like that about yourself. You keep talking, as if I had never interrupted. It was as if a slate had been wiped clean. I had been diligent with everything. I had been walking around the minefield, tiptoeing mostly, with the agency, with the calls, with him. He wouldn't let me shift. Said it was unnatural, that it was better if I embraced my true self, which, of course, was me being human. A croak escapes your beak again. I hadn't shifted in 5 years. This is my first time flying since I met you. And do you know what is the funny thing? I had been human for so long, yet I don't remember my own face. I was just his extension, I think. Your feathers are puffed, and you reach down, nibbling on a feather on your chest. And the worst thing is, I am afraid. I am afraid to try to shift back again, because then what happens with the gunshot? You are speaking as if I am not there, as if you are addressing an audience of thousands, giving a pragmatic lecture on anatomy. Your voice is devoid of feeling, and I have an overbearing need to reach out to you. What if it pokes open a hole on my chest? What if it cuts off an artery in my leg, and then I need to amputate it? My voice is gentle for once. Let me see. I didn't think you would. Yet you fly down and land on my arm. I draw in a sharp breath. I had always dreamed of a bird landing on me like that, ever since watching it in old animated movies. Your feathers are stained red, and when I reach for your right foot, you tremble. It's okay, I whisper. And because you are a pigeon, I reach and stroke the feathers on the top of your head. It's okay, I repeat, mostly to myself, because while I have studied animal medicine, I am surely not a human doctor. You might be lucky. It looks like nothing but a scary flesh wound. But you are right. I have no idea what this means for your human body. What is your favorite color? I ask, and you angle your head to the side. Orange, I guess, although I never gave it much thought. You are light as a feather. Why orange? I love the sunrise. All is dark. And then there is orange. And then there is a new day. That's a lovely answer, I say, because I need to tether you back to yourself. What do you remember of your mother's eyes? And then I curse myself because you grew up in the academy. What would you know of your mother's eyes? Yet, despite everything, you answer. They were brown, I think. I talk you through your memories and your dreams. We recall your training and exercises, your memory drills and protocol compliances, who you were before and who will you be after, animal and human anatomy, femurs and phalanxes, muscles and arteries, and how your brain expands, and how your heart beats. We spend all night talking. How you are a human, but you don't have to be one. How you want to be one. How it is worth taking the risk. And then there is a flash, and you are on the floor, dried blood on your side, behind the cerulean door. Summer. Vlog. Part 1. Uploaded June 20th, 2024. Video transcript. Hey, guys. Cassie here. Today is the first day of my songwriting retreat. I've just arrived at the cabin and absolutely love it. I'm so excited to bring you along on this summer journey with me. This cabin is exactly what I need. A quiet little place to write some new songs and finally finish the ones I started during our tour. And you guys, just look at this place. There's a forest, there's a lake, and there's literally nobody else for miles. Well, maybe more like a few 100 meters, but still. And here's the cabin. Doesn't it look cozy? I mean, sure, on the outside, it's a bit worn down. The landlord said he just inherited it and hasn't had enough time to fix it up. But guys, the main treat is inside. Let me show you, okay? Here we are. I love this rustic wood paneling and the floors. And, oh my God, these windows, they're huge. So much light. I didn't expect a cabin this far north to have such big windows. But I guess the original owners mostly used it in the summer. Though there's a really lovely fireplace too. But I have no idea if it still works. And drum roll, please. Here's the star of this humble abode. This old, trusty, upright piano. You guys, I'm so happy I found a cabin with a piano. There's just something special about writing music on a real acoustic instrument. It feels so much better than any electronic keyboard. It's like the older the instrument is, the more stories it has to tell, you know? But I did bring my portable MIDI keyboard, just in case. This piano is probably way out of tune, but I'll try to fix it. I think I'm gonna set up my laptop right here on this coffee table so I can put some mics near the piano and record my songwriting sessions. Now, here's a small kitchen area. There's running water and everything, and I've already stocked the fridge. Gosh, these windows. Can you imagine how nice it's gonna be to make a cup of coffee in the morning and just sit here, looking at the lake? Anyway, let's get on with the tour. Over here, we've got a door to what I'm guessing is a storage room. Or maybe a shed? Not sure. But look at this color. What do you call it? Teal? Or cerulean, maybe? We should totally paint our studio back home this color. I really like it. But in any case, it's locked. The landlord said he doesn't even have a key, so I guess we have a little mystery on our hands. Okay, and here's the bedroom. Not much space here, and I can barely stand straight in this corner. But it's so cozy. Kinda like a hobbit hole. I've started unpacking already. Sorry for the mess. Now, let's go check out the lake. Oh my gosh. It smells amazing out here. I wish you guys could smell it through the screen. It's like pine trees, fresh grass, and a cool breeze from the lake. And listen, can you hear the birds? Not sure if the camera mic is picking it up, but I hope you can. I know I'm gonna spend so much time down here, drawing inspiration from nature. Anyway, I'm gonna settle in now, play some piano. Well, maybe try tuning it first. And I'll check in with you guys soon. The reception here is kinda spotty, but I'll do my best to post regularly. See you soon. Bye. Summer Vlog Part 2 uploaded June 21st, 2024. Video transcript. Hey guys. So, it's my second day at the cabin. Last night, I stayed up way too late working on a new song. And I guess my brain didn't fully shut off when I finally went to bed. 'Cause I'm pretty sure I dreamed a melody. Isn't it funny how our minds work? Sometimes I hear a song in my sleep. And in my dream, it's the most incredible thing I've ever heard. But when I wake up, it's kinda meh at best. Or worse, it's not even my song at all. Just something I heard before. But every now and then, I do get a real song idea from my dreams. Honestly, even when I'm awake, it feels like songs already exist somewhere out there. You know? Like when I'm really in the flow, inspired, or whatever you call it. It's like the music comes to me, and I just have to write it all down before it slips away. Weird, huh? Other times, it's more like solving a puzzle. I have all these pieces. I just have to figure out where they fit. And when I find the right spot, it just falls into place. Maybe there's a place where all the songs and stories live, and we're here just to write them down. Who knows? Anyway, enough of my rambling. I tuned the piano as best I could. A couple of keys are still slightly off, but I didn't want to push it and risk breaking something. It's good enough for now. All right, I'm gonna go write down some new song. You guys have a good one, and I'll check in with you soon. Bye. Summer Vlog Part 3 uploaded June 23rd, 2024. Video transcript. Okay, guys, this is weird. Remember how I said I dreamed of a melody? Well, now I'm not sure it's just a dream. I've been hearing this melody in my sleep every night. And last night, I woke up. But the song didn't stop. I still could hear somebody, or something, humming it. It was really soft, but it was definitely there. I tried recording it, but my mic didn't pick up anything. Just background noise. I swear, I'm not making this up. This song, it's so beautiful, so full of longing, but it gives me goosebumps, and not entirely in a good way. And the weirdest part? It's like it's stuck in a loop. It just ends abruptly and starts over, like it's forgotten how it ends. And now it's stuck in my head. Oh, wait. I'm so stupid. I definitely didn't get enough sleep. Here, let me sing it for you. Then, now you see what I mean, right? It's like it's missing its ending. Anyway, maybe it's just my brain doing weird musician stuff. I'm gonna go explore the woods now and try to clear my head, and then focus on my own songs. Let me know what you think in the comments. See you soon. Bye. Summer Vlog Part 4 uploaded June 25th, 2024. Video transcript. Hey guys, sorry for this shaky on-the-go vlog, but I just found out something, and I have to share it with you. So, today, I went into town to get some supplies, and I ended up chatting with this old guy at the shop. When I mentioned I was staying at the lakeside cabin, his whole face changed. Like, he actually looked disturbed. He told me that about 30 years ago, another musician rented the same cabin. He thinks his name was Daniel or David, something like that. And he just vanished. I have to find out more about this missing musician. I'm gonna hit the local library tomorrow and see what I can dig up. Oh, and before I forget, no, I did not distort the audio in the last vlog on purpose. I didn't even realize the part where I sang the melody got corrupted. I tried recording it again later, but when I played it back, all I got was this weird, distorted static. And after the third try, the electricity actually went out. Maybe the song wants me to finish it first. Or maybe it's just so old school that it only wants to exist in analog. Either way, for now, I'll just have to stick to good old pen and paper. All right, I'll keep you posted. Bye. Summer Vlog Part 5 uploaded June 26th, 2024. Video transcript. Hey, guys. I have an update on the missing musician mystery. So, of course, I tried Googling it first, but without a full name, I didn't get very far. But today, I went to the town library, and I actually found an article in a local newspaper from 1994. Here, I made a copy. There's not much information here, but at least it confirms that a musician really did go missing. His name was Daniel Hart, and he disappeared in July 1994. From what I can tell, the police didn't search for him too hard, since he was a touring musician and wasn't from around here. They figured he just moved on. But here's the weird part. The article says that all his belongings were left at the cabin, including his guitar. Now, show me a musician who would willingly leave their instrument behind. I also talked to the librarian, this super stern elderly lady, and she actually remembers Daniel. He came by a few times to research local history and culture. She told me he always seemed to have his head in the clouds, and I think when I was leaving, the lady mumbled something like musician's curse, but I'm not totally sure. Not creepy at all, right? Now, about the melody, I transcribed it into sheet music and have been working on the ending. I've been writing down every option I come up with, but nothing fits yet. But there's something wrong with my notes. I don't think I wrote some of these variations in my notebook. I remember the versions I had in my head, but on the page, they're different. I don't know. Maybe I screwed up and made a bunch of mistakes when I wrote them down. Or maybe I'm just going crazy, like some of you suggested in the comments. It looks like my handwriting, but it's hard to tell with just the dom and lines in the notation. And these cadences feel more than just incompatible with the main melody. They feel wrong, almost sinister. Honestly, the fact that I don't remember composing them freaks me out even more than Daniel's connection to the cabin. Summer Vlog, Part 6, uploaded June 28th, 2024. Video transcript. Guys, look. I just noticed this page sticking out from under the locked door. I swear it wasn't there before. Let's see. Oh, wow. It's the song. But, there are a couple more bars added at the end. It looks old. And the handwriting isn't mine. Do you think it's Daniel's? Jeez, how is that even possible? And why did this page suddenly appear now? I don't believe in ghosts, but this feels like too much of a coincidence, right? Also, I'm not just hearing the melody at night anymore. Now, it comes as a faint whistling whenever a draft moves through the room. It gives me chills, though I'm not sure if it's the sound itself or just the cold air. Am I losing my mind? Summer Vlog, Part 7, uploaded June 29th, 2024. Video transcript. Guys, I've made some progress on the melody. I got a couple more bars right. I can feel it, but it's still not finished. It's like it's just on the tip of my tongue, but I can't quite get it right. It's louder now. I hear it even outside in the wind, though the farther I get from the cabin, the fainter it becomes. And of course, I can still hear it in my head since I'm constantly thinking about it. It's the ultimate earworm. There's this urgency in it now. I've got shivers crawling up the back of my neck all the time. I think it wants me to figure it out. And soon. Sorry, I don't have much time to spare. Gotta get back to work. Summer Vlog, Part 8. Uploaded June 30th, 2024. Video transcript. Okay. This isn't just cabin weirdness anymore. I ran into town to pick up some groceries and when I came back, this. The whole place was trashed. They tore out a few pages from my manuscript notebook, and there are deep scratches on the locked door, like someone was trying to pry it open. But they didn't take my laptop or camera. The only thing that makes sense is that they were after the song. But why? Luckily, I had Daniel's sheet with me. I know the rational thing would be to pack up and get out of here immediately. But I don't think I can. I need to finish this song. I've always felt like it was important, and now I know it is. I think I'm getting closer to figuring out the right ending. The melody is clearer now, and sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I swear I see it. This pale blue ribbon of light flowing around me. SVN News Report. July 1st, 2024. Forest fire near Songvale Lake. A fast-moving wildfire broke out overnight near Songvale Lake, with fire crews working since early this morning to contain the spread before it reaches nearby homes and hiking trails. Authorities believe the fire may have originated at a lakeside cabin, possibly due to faulty wiring in the aging structure. At this time, there is no confirmed information about potential victims. Evacuation warnings have been issued for several properties along the eastern edge of Songvale Lake, and officials are urging residents to stay alert and be prepared to leave if conditions worsen. SVN News Report, July 2nd, 2024. Missing musician. Last seen near Songvale Lake. Authorities are searching for Cassie Reed, a 29-year-old musician who was last seen in the town of Ridgepoint, just a few miles from Songvale Lake, the day before a fast-moving wildfire broke out in the area. According to local authorities, Reed was reported missing by her manager after she failed to show up for a scheduled video call yesterday. She had been renting a lakeside cabin near the fire's suspected point of origin. Reed was last seen on June 30th at a small grocery store in Ridgepoint. Witnesses say she appeared distracted and was acting strangely. Authorities have not confirmed whether Reed was inside the cabin when the fire started. Officials are urging anyone with information about Cassie's whereabouts to come forward. Meanwhile, her fans have taken to social media using the hashtag #FindCassie to share updates and express their concern. Summer vlog. I'm alive. Uploaded July 8th, 2024. Video transcript. Hey guys, Cassie here. I know many of you have been worried, but I'm okay. I had to go dark for a while. Someone, or something, set fire to the cabin, and they still might be after me. And the melody. I know some of you already thought I was crazy. Now, you'll be sure of it. But hear me out. I believe the song saved me. I found the right ending. I know the whole song now. It happened just a couple of hours before the fire. The moment I played the melody from start to finish, I heard a creak. The cerulean door opened. Inside, there was a room filled with old instruments, flutes, violins. I think I even saw Daniel's guitar. And there were cassette tapes, too. There were many more musicians before me or Daniel. I don't know what happened to them, but many of them tried to write this same song. I found heaps of sheet music in that storage room, all in different handwriting. Some pieces were definitely the same song, with variations of the last part, though not many were finished. What's interesting is that some of them felt right to me, even though they were different from my version. Maybe the ending isn't just about fitting the song. Maybe it's about reflecting the person writing it. And there were other songs, completely different ones, each with variations of their own. I don't know what that means yet, but I believe this song holds some kind of benevolent power. A protection spell, maybe. Something that keeps a darkness at bay. A darkness that's been trying to destroy the song and anyone who tries to finish it. I think all those creepy feelings I had were coming not from the song itself, but from that darkness trying to scare me away. And when I finally finished the song, it got really, really mad. I must have dozed off while going through all that sheet music. But I woke up to the melody whistling under the eaves. It was so loud and piercing, like a siren. That's when I smelled smoke. The cabin was on fire. I grabbed as many pages of music as I could reach and ran to the living room to get my laptop. But everything was already on fire. I couldn't get to the door. Luckily, those huge windows made a great escape point, and then I just ran. Now I'm safe, and the song is too. I can record it now. I'm not sure if it's because it's complete or because that dark power doesn't stand in the way anymore. But I still have so many questions. I have so much research to do to fully understand what it all means. So I'm going to disappear again for a while. But I will leave this song with you. It's out there now, everywhere you can listen to music. And I think it's important that as many people as possible hear it, sing it, remember it. This song matters, and I'm going to find out why. Wish me luck. Eyes wide open. The sun hung low in the sky, casting shadows over the cemetery. It was a beautiful day for a funeral. Mourners gathered at the top of the hill, circling the open coffin to say their last goodbyes, as Donna Herman had passed, or so they thought. Her family, dressed in black, stood closest to the coffin. Blurry shapes hovered above her. Muted voices drifted through the thick fog of her mind. Distant, yet familiar. Donna Herman wanted to scream. She could see them. Her children, her grandchildren, her so-called loved ones, standing around her, dressed in black, murmuring their final goodbyes. The sky loomed somewhere beyond them, pale and streaked with the fading sun. The coffin beneath her was lined with silk and covered in a thick scent of lilies. In the words of the pastor beside her, she was dead, but she wasn't. She was right there. She could hear them. She could see them. Panic surged through her, slamming against the walls of her motionless body. She tried to move, to twitch a finger, to part her lips, to scream, but nothing obeyed. She was trapped in her own body. Frank was the first to give the eulogy. He was Donna's first son, her golden child. As he spoke, his younger brother, Josh, stared silently at their mother's body. Even in death, the old woman refused to rest. He remembered the doctor's remark that no matter what they tried, his mother's eyes wouldn't shut. They had asked him if he wanted to sew them shut, but he couldn't bring himself to do it, and neither could his elder brother or younger sister. "Are you Joshua Herman?" Josh blinked, snapping out of his thoughts and turning to the source of the voice on his left. "Oh, just Josh, sir," he said, clearing his throat. Two men in black suits stood before him, wearing sunglasses and carrying an aura of authority. The one on the left spoke first. "Nice to meet you, Josh. I'm Detective Foreman, and this is my partner, Detective Davis," he said, extending a hand. Josh shook it. "Thanks for coming out here. I didn't know what else to do." "You did the right thing by calling the police," said Detective Davis. "We'll investigate this matter thoroughly." Josh offered them an awkward nod as he noticed his brother's speech was about to come to an end. "I'll speak with you after the funeral," he said, before walking up to the podium to give his own speech. The detective stuck around, speaking to everyone who seemed like a person of interest. "She was like a mother to me," cried Cheryl Herman, Frank Herman's wife. She clutched tightly to her tissues, crocodile tears sliding endlessly down her cheeks. Her husband comforted her by rubbing her shoulder, but he too was too distraught to be questioned properly. Josh's wife, Celia Herman, had a lot to say about the entire family. She grumbled about how much Josh had suffered due to his and his mother's disagreements over his marriage. "We haven't been over in a while," she muttered. "I only know that Frank and Millie were the ones in charge of her care after we left the house." "Can you tell us more about Frank and Millie?" Detective Davis asked. "Sure thing," Celia said. She turned to the boy sitting on her lap. "Won't you go to Daddy now? His speech is about to end." She ushered away what looked to be a 5-year-old boy, the spitting image of Josh Herman. Once he was gone, she reached into her purse, pulling out a cigarette and lighting it. "What would you like to know?" she said, blowing out a cloud of smoke. Detective Foreman coughed. "Anything you could tell us that you think is relevant will do," he said, waving the smoke away from his face. Celia took a long drag before she spoke. "Frank is the golden child, you know. He can do no wrong in that old bag's eyes. Even though Josh has been the one keeping the business afloat, Frank has always gotten all of the credit. And Millie, she exhaled slowly, tapping the ashes off the side of her chair. Well, Millie's got her own issues. Dating a scumbag like Cameron. What was your and your husband's relationship like with the deceased before she passed? Detective Davis asked. Celia sighed and pressed the cigarette into the armrest beside her. I haven't spoken to that woman or set foot in her house since she called me a gold-digging whore the day I gave birth to Gabe, she said bitterly. Josh always tried to keep the peace, though. He spoke to her as often as a son should. Detective Davis nodded, jotting down notes. Right. Thank you, Mrs. Herman. We'll contact you if we have any further questions. He exchanged a few quiet words with his partner, and the two detectives split off into the crowd. Detective Foreman found Cameron lingering near the back of the gathering, hands shoved into his pockets, rocking slightly on his heels. Unlike the rest of the family, he didn't appear grief-stricken. If anything, he looked bored. Cameron, right? Foreman asked, pulling out his notebook. Yeah. Cameron barely glanced at him. How long have you been with Millie Herman? A couple of years? Nothing serious. Cameron shrugged. Look, man, I don't know what you expect me to say. The old bag hated me. Wouldn't even let me within 10 feet of the mansion. Foreman raised a brow. Why didn't she like you? I'm a DJ, Cameron said flatly. You think Donna Herman would have wanted her goody two-shoes daughter with someone like me? He flicked his gaze toward the casket, his lip curling slightly. Not that it matters now. At the same time, Detective Davis approached two well-dressed men standing slightly apart from the family. Julio Hernandez, a longtime business associate of Donna's, and Ben Handover, her lawyer. Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Handover, Davis greeted. Mind if I ask you a few questions? Julio adjusted his cufflinks. Of course, Detective, though I don't know what else to say. Donna's death was unexpected. Ben let out a sigh. Truly unexpected. There was still so much to be done before he stopped himself. Davis caught the hesitation, his grip tightening on his notepad. Before what? Ben hesitated, lowering his voice. Before she finalized the changes to her will. Davis's brow lifted. What changes? She mentioned wanting to reassess her assets and how they would be distributed. But she fell into a coma before anything was made official. Julio cut in smoothly. Donna was very careful with her affairs. It's a shame she never got the chance to put her final wishes into writing. Davis absorbed the information. A sudden death right before a change to a will? That was a clear motive for murder. But who in the Herman family would have wanted Donna gone before she could make those changes? His gaze shifted to the nearby staff. Anne, Donna's longtime maid, stood with red-rimmed eyes, clutching a handkerchief. Beside her, Carlos, the butler, remained stoic, his expression unreadable. Davis approached them. "Did either of you notice anything unusual in the days leading up to Mrs. Herman's passing?" Anne sniffled. She was in a coma, but she was showing signs of improvement. I never thought." She shook her head, unable to continue through the sobs. Carlos cleared his throat. "There were tensions, sir. Madame Herman's children didn't see eye to eye when it came to her care." His eyes flickered toward Frank, Cheryl, and Millie. Frank and Cheryl insisted she remain at home. Millie argued she'd be better off in a care facility. Davis frowned. Cheryl was involved in Donna's care? Carlos hesitated before nodding. More than involved. She handled everything with the doctor. He wasn't just hired for Donna. He's been treating Cheryl's family for years. Davis narrowed his eyes. That was a detail worth investigating. Donna fought harder to be able to move, but her body would not listen. She knew who had harmed her. She could tell them herself if she could just speak. Desperation clawed at her, and somehow she forced her eyes to shift, darting around in search of anyone who noticed. And someone did. Gabe, the little boy's breath hitched. He didn't understand death. Not fully. He didn't like funerals. Didn't like the way Grandma looked in the coffin. And he certainly didn't understand why, if she was supposed to be asleep forever. She had just blinked at him. "Mommy?" His voice trembled. "Mommy, Grandma's eyes are moving." Silence, then a soft chuckle. "Oh, sweetheart," Celia cooed, smoothing down his hair. "That's just your imagination, honey. Grandma's asleep." "No, no, no!" Donna screamed inside her mind. "I'm here! I'm still here!" A new voice, warm and honeyed, drifted over the murmurs. Children and their wild imaginations, right? Donna's blood ran colder than the silk beneath her. Cheryl, the woman who had put her here. The woman who had killed her, and no one would ever know. One by one, her family members approached to place flowers on her coffin. Some averted their eyes. Others kept them tightly shut. No one dared to look at her face. And no matter how hard she tried to flicker her gaze, no one noticed. Then, the last one stepped forward. Cheryl, Donna's blood boiled beneath her frozen skin. Cheryl smiled sweetly, crocodile tears welling in her eyes as she spoke about family, about bonds that could never be broken. Then she leaned down, her lips brushing against Donna's ear. "I know you're still in there." She pulled back just enough to meet Donna's unblinking stare, a serene expression settling over her face. One hand caressed Donna's cheek, as if in mourning. "Don't you worry." Cheryl's words seeped down her ear like a searing poison. "I'll have Frank join you as soon as the inheritance comes through." The funeral of Evelyn Warren. The chapel was too quiet. Grace sat in the front row, her hands tightly clenched in her lap. She couldn't stop staring at the closed casket. the weight of it pressing down on her chest. Her mother, Evelyn Warren, was supposed to be in there, gone. The whole world seemed to have shifted under her feet. But Grace couldn't fully accept it. Not when the last time she saw her mom, she was barely clinging to life in that hospital room. The pastor spoke about Evelyn's life, about her kindness, her strength, her love for her family. Grace barely heard him. Her mind kept drifting back to the hospital, the soft beeping of the machines, the moments of whispered conversation between her and the nurses. "She's not going to make it," they'd said, and everyone had gathered around, waiting for the inevitable. But how had they gotten it so wrong? How was she really gone? A door creaked open, faint, but loud enough to break the silence. Grace's eyes snapped up instinctively. The air in the room seemed to change, thickening with something she couldn't place. At first, it was just the soft sound of the door, but then she noticed people in the back of the chapel, turning their heads. It wasn't just the noise. There was something in the way the air shifted, something tense. Something didn't feel right. At first, Grace didn't see anyone. She just heard the door. But then, she caught a glimpse of a figure stepping through, standing still in the doorway. A woman. Her figure barely visible in the dim light. Grace's stomach dropped. The figure was too still, too stiff. She couldn't see her face, just the outline of someone standing there, looking almost out of place. But then, the figure stepped forward. It was a woman wearing a simple dress, her hair falling loosely, almost wild, around her face. Grace's heart skipped a beat. There was something about the way the woman moved, about the way she stood there, her presence pulling every eye in the room toward her. Something in Grace's gut twisted. She knew that woman. She knew her all too well. Her breath caught in her throat. Grace stood up slowly, her legs shaking. The woman wasn't talking, wasn't even moving, just standing there. But it didn't matter. Grace's eyes were locked onto her, a strange panic flooding her chest. It was like something inside her was telling her this wasn't a mistake. "Mom," Grace whispered, the words barely leaving her mouth. But the woman didn't answer. She stood still, her eyes scanning the room. There was something about her, about the way she looked, like she was lost or confused. Grace couldn't breathe. Every instinct screamed that it wasn't possible. She was just imagining things. But the figure, that woman, had to be her mom. Her voice trembled as she repeated the word. "Mom?" The woman blinked. Once, twice. She took a step forward, her gaze still unfocused. Grace took a hesitant step toward her, and then, slowly, the figure's eyes found Grace. They locked. and for a brief moment, the room fell completely silent. The woman's lips parted, but the words were slow, unsure. I'm not dead." The room seemed to hold its breath. Grace's mind was spinning. Her body was still frozen, a wave of confusion and disbelief washing over her. She wanted to ask a million questions, but no words came. The woman, Evelyn, took another step forward, her face pale, her expression distant, as if she were struggling to remember why she was here. "I didn't die," she whispered again, almost to herself, before her eyes finally met Grace's. "I'm not dead." Grace's mouth went dry. Her hands shook. Her mom, standing there, alive, and looking like she hadn't just been on the brink of death. It didn't make sense. She couldn't make sense of it. Not when she had just signed the papers hours ago. Not when she had seen the doctor shake his head. Not when the nurses had told her it was over. She took a step closer, her heart racing. "Mom? How are you? What's going on?" Evelyn's eyes were distant, like she was still trying to piece everything together. "I don't know, Grace," she said, her voice low, almost trembling. "I don't know. I was in the hospital, and then I woke up somewhere. I don't remember how or why. It doesn't make sense." Grace felt the floor beneath her shift. It wasn't just her confusion anymore. The whole room was holding its breath. The whispers around her, the people shifting in their seats. It all felt like the world was tilting, like something that should have been impossible was somehow here, in front of her. Her mother was here, alive, but no one knew why. A voice broke through the silence, sharp and incredulous. "What do you mean you woke up somewhere?" It was Mark, Evelyn's husband, standing at the back. His voice was trembling, but it was louder than the rest. "How could you just wake up? You were dead, Evelyn." Evelyn turned slowly toward him, her gaze steady but tired. "I don't know what they told you, Mark," she said, each word heavy. "I don't know what happened, but I'm not dead. I'm standing here. I'm alive." Mark shook his head, his face pale, his hands clenched by his sides. "This doesn't make sense. I saw them roll you out. I saw them." His voice broke for a moment. "I thought we were done. I thought I was burying you today." People exchanged uncertain looks, some beginning to stand, others shrinking back into their seats. Everything had been turned upside down in an instant. Grace's mind was racing. "But the hospital, the machines, Her voice faltered, as if the words themselves were too heavy. "I was there, Mom. I saw you. I told you I loved you. You. She couldn't finish. The memory of her mom lying there, so fragile, barely clinging to life, was still too fresh. It didn't make sense. How could she be standing here now? So normal. Evelyn stepped closer, but there was no comfort in it. She wasn't the same Evelyn that Grace had known. She seemed distant, even when she stood right in front of her. It was like she was here physically, but her presence was off. She looked like someone trying to remember who they used to be. I don't know why they told you that, Evelyn said softly. I don't know what happened, but I swear to you, Grace, I wasn't dead. I didn't die, but we were all told you were gone, Grace whispered, her voice cracking. Why didn't you come to us? I couldn't, Grace. I don't know what happened, but I couldn't remember how to get back. Everything felt so strange, like I was still in the hospital, like I wasn't allowed to leave. Grace couldn't breathe. None of this was making sense. I need answers, Mark said, taking a few quick steps toward Evelyn, his face twisted with disbelief. You don't just get to show up after we've all mourned you, after we've buried you, and say you're fine. I heard them tell me you were gone. His voice was sharp, raw. What is this? Some kind of joke? I'm not joking, Mark, Evelyn said, her tone suddenly hard, but there was a weariness behind it. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm not here to confuse you. I'm just telling you the truth. I don't know what happened, but I'm not dead. The room was silent again, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Grace wanted to scream, to shake her mom and demand answers, but she could only stand there, frozen. The casket behind her, her mother's casket, was a cruel reminder of everything that was supposed to be real, of everything that wasn't. Maybe you should sit down, someone whispered from the back. Grace couldn't tell who it was. Evelyn's eyes flickered around the room, scanning the faces. And for the first time since she entered, she seemed to register how many people were watching. Some were looking at her in disbelief, others in fear, unsure of whether they should approach or retreat. I'm not trying to hurt anyone, Evelyn repeated, her voice quieter now, though there was something like sorrow in her tone. But I can't explain this. I don't understand it. I don't understand how I'm standing here either. I don't understand any of this. Grace felt tears threaten to spill, but she fought them back. The world was too heavy. It felt like her brain couldn't catch up with what was happening. The way her mother looked, alive, but not the same, was like a dream, like something she'd imagined in her worst nightmare. And yet, here she was, in front of them, breathing, standing, alive. I'm sorry, Evelyn said, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I'm here now. Grace, standing there, couldn't shake the feeling that the answers weren't going to come easy. And maybe they never would. The white door. The white door. It's been locked since the day we moved in. No one can find the key anywhere. Nobody has a clue if and what it leads to if they could access it. It's a locked door with no key, and it sits in the middle of our bedroom wall in the room I share with my younger sister, Chloe. It's a strange, plain white door with the number 13 written on the top of it, also in white. It merges in completely with our white wall. Even the door handle is white, making it blend in so well. It's almost invisible, and most people completely miss it. When one of us that can see it point it out to them, they appear perplexed. It seems only a few of us are able to see it. I could have said, it's like a picture of a door painted onto the wall itself. But on closer inspection, it is slightly indented, and the white handle sticks out a little from the wall in a 3D effect. Chloe, along with my parents, claim not to be able to see it, and that I'm making it up in my imagination. But my older brother Felix claims to have not only seen it, but opened it when we first moved here. You opened it? Yeah, once on my 13th birthday, a couple of years ago. What did it lead to? And what did you do with the key? It didn't lead to anything. Flory, just the inside of a brick wall, and there was no key. It was unlocked already. Then how did it get locked? I don't know, Flory. Maybe Mum or Dad locked it? You can hardly blame them. What's the point of having a doorway to the inside of a brick wall? There wasn't even a corridor or secret passageway. I'd forget about it if I were you. It's completely pointless. Probably someone's idea of a laugh or something. You know, to catch nosy people like us out. Why would Mum and Dad lock it and pretend they couldn't see it? I thought to myself. The mystery of the door growing deeper in my mind. Don't get me wrong, Felix's discovery on opening it did make total sense. After all, the wall it was a part of was one of the two outside walls of our room. The one next to it was the window wall, as we like to call it. But like Felix said, why on earth would you want to have a door that led to the bricks of your house? Surely the builders would have just put a complete wall there, like all the other rooms. It also didn't explain the jingly musical sound and singing voices that came from behind the area of the door on a night, or the light that shone underneath it, lighting up the darkness. I'm pretty sure I've also heard other voices from behind it, too. Nothing spooky, sounding just happy and giggly, almost like there are children on the other side of the door playing. It gives out a nice vibe when I hear them, leaving a smile on my face. Flory, earth to Flory, you're daydreaming again. Sorry, Chloe. What was you wanting? Mum asked what you want for dinner. The options are spag bowl or chicken curry and rice. Ugh, neither. I'm not even hungry. Whichever you want, Chloe. You are gonna eat it though, right, Flo? My little sister questioned me suspiciously. Sure, maybe. I don't know. I'm still full from lunch. I might just grab a salad. Yeah, tell Mum I'll get myself a salad. I quite fancy that. Chloe looked unconvinced, but left the room to let Mum know anyway. A while later, Mum came and tapped on the bedroom door. Flory, can I come in? Sure. I've made you up a chicken salad, like you asked for. But I have to say, I'm getting worried about you. You're not eating properly. Though I understand salads are a good choice, you also need to be eating other things. Mom, you don't need to worry. I'm okay. I'm just not fancying the same food I did before. And salad is a healthy choice, especially as you added the chicken. Well, okay, I'd like you to come and eat it with me. I'm having one too. We need to sort your birthday party out. I don't think your guests will want salad as their only choice of food, do you? I don't know. A salad birthday cake sounds healthy to me. I giggled, the reply, something I hadn't done for a while. This made her smile as we both went to the dining room to eat. The chicken salad was good, and I agreed to have a chocolate cake for my birthday party. I didn't really have the heart to tell her that I didn't want a birthday party, and no one would come anyway. She seemed more excited about my birthday than I did. A week later, my birthday was finally here. And while my parents and sister were busy putting the decorations up, I called Felix over. There was something I wanted to know from him. As we went to my bedroom, I could already hear the children's voices again. They seemed to be singing something, but I couldn't tell what. Do you hear that? Hear what, Flory? The singing? It's coming from behind the door. Not really, but it does look a bit different. Look, the 13 is standing out 3D like the handle. It was like that when we moved in before I opened it. It's your 13th birthday, Flory. It can't be a coincidence, can it? He put his ear up against the door to try and hear the voices. Looking back at me, he suddenly gulped and said, Flory, you're right. There is someone on the other side of the door. They're calling for you, but I thought you said it was just bricks behind there. It is. Well, it was when I opened it. I slowly creeped over to where he was at the door. What should I do, Felix? I don't know. Maybe you should try and open it? I don't have the key, remember? Neither did I. When I opened it, remember? I just grabbed the handle and pulled it down. Give it a try. What do you have to lose? Okay, but please hold my other hand. I don't want to do this alone. You don't have to, Flory. I'm right here with you. Okay, here goes, ready? I grabbed Felix's hand and pulled down the handle. The door swung open. Sure enough, it looked like nothing was there but a brick wall. Then I heard it too. Flory, help me, Flory. I had no choice but to risk hitting the brick wall as I stepped inside the doorway. Just in front of me was a winding downward staircase made of stone steps. I looked behind me and saw my room again. But who was calling me? And how did they know it was me? I made a decision. I was going to go down the staircase and find out who it was. I turned back again to see the door closing. Wait, no, don't close it. I thought you was coming with me. I am with you, Flory. Once on this side, the door closes until it's time to return to your party. Quick, let's go. Felix made his way down the staircase and out of sight before I could have a chance to think. How did he know that? He said it was only a brick wall. Had he actually stepped inside and been here before? Felix, wait. Flory, we help Flory. There it was again. I'm coming, I replied, and started descending the stone staircase slowly, as I wasn't sure it wouldn't make me slip. I hoped Felix was all right. He had practically ran down them. Felix, are you still there? Hello? No response. Even the other voice had gone quiet. As I got lower, I could hear a dripping sound begin. It started slowly and sounded like a long drip each time until it eventually sped up into a drip, 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 drip. By this point, the stone stairway was also damp and starting to become completely waterlogged at my feet. I wasn't sure I could actually go down any further when the voice started calling again. Flory, help Flory. It was sounding more desperate. I'm nearly there. Where are you? Just as I went to take a step down into the water, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Not that way, Flory. You'll drown if you go that way. Follow me this way. Felix, why didn't you go slower and stay with me? I knew you'd find me, Flory. Come on, give me your hand and step up onto this ledge on the right. I had been so focused on not slipping down the stairs, I hadn't bothered to look around me. I grabbed Felix's hand again as he helped me up onto the ledge. I paused to look around us. We seemed to be in a cave. The walls were solid stone. Looking up, I could see stars glinting above. At least they looked like stars. But unless it was a dormant volcano or other cave with an outside view, they were probably not stars. Maybe we were in a diamond or crystal cave, seeing them glinting above. Or maybe that was the dripping water droplets. Either way, it was so beautiful. I felt my breath catch in my chest at the sight. The water I had almost stepped into appeared to have a fast current, and I was glad Felix had been there to guide me to the ledge. Where to now? I asked eagerly. Follow me. It's this way. The ledge wasn't very wide and was a little slippery, but we got there slowly. When we reached the end of the ledge, Felix lifted me down, pointing in the direction we were going to next. It was very bright, almost blinding. I lifted my arm to shield my eyes as I looked towards what I guessed was the sunny outside. I wasn't far wrong. We stepped out into a beautiful summer's day. There were flowers, trees, lovely green blades of grass with a beautiful silver water fountain in the middle. Swings on the trees, a pool. Children were playing happily, skipping, dancing, and singing around. Some were making daisy chains, while others were making buttercup chains. The lyrical sound of birds chirping and singing. The whole place gave me a peaceful feeling, just like a happy dream. Only this was a real place I'd come to from my bedroom, down the stone staircase into a summer's garden. So I had heard children laughing and singing through the white door. Yes, you had. Felix replied, almost secretively. Why don't you come and meet some of my friends? He beckoned me to follow him again. Your friends? But you said there was nothing but a brick wall behind that door. How can you have friends here already? He glanced at me with a comical expression on his face that said, seriously? You need to ask? But all he said was, follow me, you will see. I stepped onto the grass with him and started following. As we got to the silver water fountain, I heard the voice again. Flory, please, Mom. Dad, Flory, help. I glanced into the fountain and saw Chloe in tears and me on my bed. She was shaking me, crying, looking helpless. Mom and Dad rushed into the room. Suddenly, my breath caught again in my chest. I could feel the pressure as Dad pumped 119 223, and Mum was breathing into my mouth in between. I felt the warm breeze flow down my throat into my lungs. The white door appeared on my left. Felix was still on my right. The fountain still in front of me. Felix, what's going on? You have to choose, Flory. Come with me and meet my friends this way, or go back through the white door to Chloe and our parents. Choose, Flory, before it's too late. But I don't understand. Felix, what about you? I'm always with you, Flory. Stay with me now, or go back to Chloe before the door stays closed. Without another thought, I bolted towards the white door, my heart beating hard in my ears. I jumped through it, into my bedroom, and onto my bed, turning to see the door slowly closing, with Felix still behind it, smiling and waving goodbye. Felix, I cried out, bolting upright on my bed. Flory, Flory, you died. Flory, you wasn't breathing. I couldn't help. I'm so glad you came back. I couldn't bear to lose you, too. Chloe sobbed. I held her in my arms, soothing her as she stained my top with tears. Mom and Dad looked like they had seen a ghost, their faces as white as the door that used to be on my wall, but had completely disappeared as it had closed, taking Felix with it. Did you shout out Felix when you came back, honey? Was you with Felix when you were gone? Is heaven real? My mom seemed to have a million questions. Don't be silly, dear. Felix died on their birthday 2 years ago. He drowned in Glitter's Cove. He can't have been with her. Once you're gone, you're gone. Isn't that right, Flory? I wasn't sure what to tell my dad, or who to answer first, so I decided to answer them both at once. I don't know about heaven, Mom, but there seems to be a peaceful, happy place. And yes, Felix was with me. Dad, Felix is always with me. I'm his twin, remember? The N. Rakotsbrücke, the Devil's Bridge. Rakotsbrücke, the Devil's Bridge. Whispers of mystery had long shrouded Rakotsbrücke, the legendary Devil's Bridge in Kromlau, Germany. Stories had swirled about its eerie perfection for generations, how its reflection in the still waters formed a flawless circle. Some believed it was merely an optical illusion. Others claimed it was something more, a portal to the unknown. Hans and Gerda Schmidt had grown up in the shadow of these legends. Their childhoods were filled with hushed tales passed down through the years, some dating back over a century. But the most chilling story was always the same. At certain times of the year, the bridge's reflection wasn't just a trick of the light. It was a gateway, and those who crossed it at the wrong moment were never seen again. Most dismissed such stories as mere folklore, but Hans and Gerda couldn't ignore the unsettling number of disappearances. Determined to separate fact from fiction, they spent months scouring old newspaper archives, compiling every recorded vanishing link to Rakotsbrücke. With each faded article, each cryptic account, a pattern emerged. If their calculations were correct, the next opening of the gateway was near. And this time, they would be there to witness it. Their research had uncovered a chilling pattern. The phenomenon occurred only once in winter, but was far more frequent during unseasonably warm periods in the warmer months. This week, temperatures were set to spike well above normal, and Hans and Gerda were convinced that the anomaly was bound to happen again. Armed with sophisticated audio and video equipment, Hans, Gerda, and several close friends set up camp near the bridge early Monday morning. Their goal was simple: capture undeniable proof of the anomaly. They weren't the first to try, of course, but they were determined to be the first to succeed. Each member of the group would take turns operating the equipment, ensuring the bridge was never left unwatched. Gerda was first. Luck would have to be on her side. She steadied the camera, framing the sublimely unsettling structure as it loomed over the river, its reflection dissolving into the rising morning mist. Days passed as the majestic bridge stood in solemn silence. Time was running out. By Thursday, tension had given way to celebration. The group partied, drank, and danced near the eerie silhouette of Rakotsbrücke, their initial excitement fading into the rhythm of the night. Laughter echoed through the trees, until a sudden burst of blinding white light shattered the darkness. A collective gasp cut through the air. Hans, Gerda, and the others sprinted toward the equipment, hearts pounding. Julio, the group's cameraman for that night, stood motionless, his camera locked onto the event. Then he sighed and shook his head. False alarm. They followed his gaze to the source. A biker gang rolling through the woods, their headlights gleaming off the water, engines rumbling like distant thunder. It was an illusion. The spacing of their bikes on the bridge and the reflection of their lights momentarily brought the bridge alive. From a distance, the bridge looked like a space portal had formed. "Are you recording this?" Gerda asked Julio. "Never stopped. At least we can add it to the footage of our trip when we edit the video." The air deflated from their lungs. Shoulders slumped. Heads hung low. Disappointment settled over the camp like a heavy fog. By Sunday, hope had dried up completely. They packed some of their things, one by one, muttering the same defeated refrain. "We'll try again next year." Ever the optimist, Gerda climbed onto a picnic table, raising her beer in defiance. "I want to thank all of you for coming to witness what never was," she announced, her voice carrying over the quiet camp. "But tonight, we're forgetting about that damn gateway. Tonight, we party like it never existed." A roar of approval followed, and soon the music and laughter returned. None of them noticed the waters beneath Rakotsbrücke begin to shimmer. None of them saw the perfect gaseous cloud take shape inside the circle once more. Even Julio, who found himself once again on camera duty, did not notice the bridge coming alive. It was midnight, and the others were still lost in their revelry at the campsite. None of them was there to witness what was unfolding. He might have caught it sooner, if not for Fräulein Gretchen. She had been eyeing him since they passed his group while hiking on Monday. Now, as the others partied, she had cozied beside him, drawn to the quiet observer behind the camera. Since he did not drink, he had no problem operating the equipment, though tonight his attention was divided. That night, Julio had his blanket on the ground. Fräulein Gretchen and he were making out when he caught a glimmer of light out of the corner of his eye. Standing up immediately, he checked to see if the camera and audio were working. Gretchen was still playfully fondling his ear with her lips. "Stop. This is important. Can't you see what's happening?" he said to her with a stern but playful voice. "Look at it. It's getting brighter and brighter. Come on, let's get closer." The luminous gateway had a compelling allure, almost trance-like, and it kept tugging at their interest. At the river's edge, there was a small rowboat. They went down to the water, determined to get a closer look. Meanwhile, the light got bright enough to grab the attention of the others partying at the campsite. Hans was the first to notice the light. "Look, guys, the forest is beginning to light up. Must be responding to our partying," he said playfully. "No, I think it's the bridge," Gerda said as she took off, running toward Julio's location. The rest of the gang took off after her. There was no sign of Julio near the video equipment, and the forest glow was getting brighter and brighter. Gerda turned toward the bridge, her thoughts conflicting. She wanted her full attention to find Julio and not care about the bridge. Yet the bridge was mesmerizing. Her heart was racing as the ominous light loomed large. "Julio! Julio!" The rest of the group yelled. The yells from her friends temporarily knocked her back to reality. She saw a small rowboat drift through the fog on the far side of the river. Her stomach clenched. That same boat was near them when they first set up the equipment on Monday, and it hadn't moved until now. "Guys, get over here!" Gerda's voice cut through the tense air. She was standing near the equipment. As they gathered around, she maneuvered the camera so everyone could see it. The camera began playback with the motorcycles, and they watched as the humming of the bikes slowly transformed the water. "Look at the water, guys. It appears to be vibrating. Would the sound waves have that big of an effect on the water?" Hans asked. "It must have," she replied as she zoomed in on the water. "When I go back and view the water, it is always completely calm. Something had to stir it." Gerda forwarded the camera to the moment the bridge came alive, and what they saw blew their minds. As they began watching, they heard a female voice. Stunned, Gerda rewound the tape, and sure enough, there was a flirtatious voice in the background. "Maybe Julio is at the nearest hotel?" A voice in the background whispered, drawing quiet snickers from the group. "Quiet!" Gerda snapped as they continued watching the video. Then they saw it. The gateway. "Look at the bridge! My God, it's real!" There's Julio and the girl," Hans pointed. They watched as the two made their way down the steep slope. Julio jumped in the boat first and turned to help Gretchen aboard. Freeing themselves from the riverbed, he slowly rowed toward the ominous, bright light, as if he were in a trance. Gretchen sat in front of him, leaning back on his chest, mesmerized by the gaseous light. They were approximately 30 yards from the gateway, and the recording stopped. "What? What happened?" Hans asked. "I don't know," Gerda replied. "No, this can't be happening," she shouted. She rewound the tape for a few seconds and played it back, but the same ending showed each time they watched. "Scheisse!" Gerda exclaimed. "What do we do now? We have 2 people missing, and the tape shows us something, only up to the point where we think they have disappeared. What are we going to tell people?" "We tell the truth, Gerda. This is why we came here, to find the truth," Hans added. "But we don't have the truth. Only partial truths that add to the folklore. This tape will open up more questions than answers, and we will at the tail end of it searching for more clues." Lynn, Gerda's best friend from London, walked over to her, put her hands on her shoulder, and turned her around so she could cry. Once Gerda's head hit her shoulder, she began to sob uncontrollably. Lynn knew the effect the events had on her. All the time and energy she put into this led to nothing but more questions. She also knew that deep down inside, Gerda wanted to see the gateway in action, even if it was at the cost of her friend's life, which made her feel even worse. Lynn lifted her head. Hey, don't worry. You do have something far more than you ever had. We all know what happened here. Most of it is on tape. I say we immediately make a copy of this tape, take it to the police, and let them investigate their copy. And we have concrete evidence to examine on our own. Next time we are here, we will be much better off than before. Lynn's right, Gerda. We now know a lot more than we ever did. We know the vibrations from the bikes started the gateway. We know that we can't stare at it because of its trance-like powers. And we know the best time to be here and get another shot. Hans added. Yes, that's right, Gerda. The others chimed in. 1 year to the day, the crew set up again. In honor of Julio, they set up a makeshift burial plot at the exact location where the camera stood last year. Gerda felt this new location was better. It was on the other side of the lake and had a better view. This time, the crew was on high alert. There was no partying this time. Their campground was just up the hill from the camera, and they could see partial spots of the lake and bridge from their tents. As they were finishing up with their tents, Lynn ran over to Gerda. Look at those two over there, Gerda. She pointed. No, that can't be. They took off running over the bridge, yelling, Julio, Julio. A young man turned around as they approached, staring at them, confused. Yes, how do you know my name? Lucid Dr. Mira Santos aligns her pen at a precise 90-degree angle to her notepad, then adjusts it to 89. Perfect precision matters. Her office presents an unbroken landscape of whites and grays, walls, furniture, even the spines of journals arranged by height on custom shelving. Her diplomas hang at measured intervals. Harvard Medical School, Johns Hopkins Fellowship, Stanford Neuropsychiatry. I keep having these dreams where pieces of myself are missing, Jamie Whitcomb explains, voice carrying an unsettling familiarity Mira can't place. Like someone tore pages from my story. She observes his hands as they animate his words. Index finger extended, thumb perpendicular. A gesture triggering a microsecond of déjà vu that she immediately classifies. Transient memory phenomenon. No clinical significance. Perhaps we could explore these gaps through guided imagery, she suggests, noting the clock. 2:37. I think my unconscious is getting tired of being ignored, Jamie says, meeting her eyes with unexpected directness. His fingers tap against his knee. Tap, tap, pause, tap. A rhythm that seems momentarily significant, then doesn't. You wrote something about this, actually. How the mind creates increasingly dramatic interventions when we persist in avoidance. Your work on trauma compartmentalization changed how I understand myself. Mira's hand pauses. Few patients research their therapists so thoroughly. She glances down and notices a blue smudge on her thumb that wasn't there moments ago. When not directly observed, it seems to shift slightly, like water finding its level. After Jamie leaves, she documents. Patient demonstrates unusual knowledge of practitioner's methodology. The words form in reassuring black ink. She categorizes the blue smudge. Stress-induced perceptual anomaly. Clinical terminology creates immediate distance. Safety through classification. Her calendar displays afternoon appointments with a precise rectangle marked personal reflection at 2:30 each day. Time methodically scheduled for not thinking about what happened. 300 days of structured avoidance. She notices blue ink spreading in tomorrow's reflection block. Jamie Whitcomb, second consultation. She has no memory of scheduling this. Dr. Chen appears in her doorway. Mira, you've scheduled during your personal time tomorrow. The patient required accommodation. She lies with clinical detachment. You haven't adjusted that time block in almost a year, he observes, eyes lingering on her hand, where the blue smudge seems to pulse with her heartbeat. Her apartment mirrors her professional space, meticulously organized in whites and grays. She moves efficiently through rooms systematically purged of memory. Each belonging serves logical purpose. Control through environmental precision. Her path includes a mathematically precise 60-degree turn at the hallway's end. Gaze sliding past the single disruption in her colorless sanctuary. A cerulean blue door she hasn't opened in 300 days. For a heartbeat, vanilla shampoo scent registers. Small fingers sticky with breakfast syrup. A child's laughter, like wind chimes. Pulse accelerates. Tachycardia, 97 beats per minute. Respiratory rate increased 18%. Diagnosis: acute stress response. Treatment: continued avoidance. She walks past, careful not to touch the blue. Mira prepares for Jamie's second session, straightening her already straight pens. The blue stain has spread overnight, now covering her palm entirely. She tugs her sleeve lower. Patient demonstrates unusual knowledge of practitioner's methodology, she writes. Possible prior envy. She stops. The words appear in blue ink despite her black pen. She selects another. Same result. Equipment. Malfunction. Statistically improbable. Perceptual anomaly. Equally unlikely. Classification. Inconclusive. When Jamie enters, the room temperature drops 3 degrees. Calibration error, surely. The clock's second hand stutters. Tick. Pause. Tick, tick. Stretching moments unnaturally. Mira's breath forms small clouds that hover before dissipating. I researched you, she says, professional tone brittle. Your contact information leads nowhere. Perhaps I don't exist within your acceptable parameters, Jamie replies. something shifting behind his eyes. His features seem unstable today. A 30-something stranger one moment, then briefly showing contours of a younger face. Isn't that your specialty, Dr. Santos? Creating parameters that exclude what hurts too much? The air carries a faint antiseptic smell. Hospital corridors, grief-saturated waiting rooms, olfactory hallucination. Unlikely, but not impossible. You've built your career helping others face what you avoid, Jamie says, fingers forming that distinctive gesture, index extended, thumb perpendicular. In your article, you wrote about integration, but your office calendar tells a different story. Her diploma wavers when not directly observed. Doctor of Medicine briefly becoming Mother Who Wasn't, before snapping back when she focuses on it. Do you believe in astronomy, Dr. Santos? Jamie asks, voice suddenly higher-pitched. That stars remember us even when clouds block our view? Even when we're gone? Mira's pen freezes. Mid-note. A child had asked her a nearly identical question once. Coincidence? Statistically impossible. We should focus on your experiences, she attempts, but her voice falters. Like you focus during your personal reflection blocks? His eyes shift color momentarily, from brown to startling blue. The time you carefully schedule for not remembering, the antiseptic smell intensifies. Her bookcase blurs at the edges, white shelves rippling like water, book spines dissolving into hospital corridor signs, small hand in hers, warm against her palm. Blue wool sweater with wooden buttons she'd helped fasten. Vanilla shampoo. Mira blinks rapidly. Classification: intrusive memory fragment. Treatment: compartmentalization. The clinical term disintegrates in her mind. You're diagnosing yourself in the third person, Jamie observes, his voice oscillating between adult articulation and childlike directness. Does Harvard teach doctors to hide inside words when feelings get too big? The pen in her hand turns liquid, blue ink flowing across her fingers in tiny rivulets that form star-like patterns on her skin. When Jamie leaves, or did he simply fade, Mira attempts to reorient. She aligns her pen perpendicular to her notepad, but blue ink pools beneath it, refusing containment. Dr. Chen enters, without knocking. The room temperature normalizes instantly, but blue stains remain across her notes, her desk, her hands. The Wilkins consultation, he says with unusual directness. They've requested another therapist. Said you seemed elsewhere. I maintained appropriate clinical distance, she recites. Like you maintain distance from the children's ward? His tone softens. 300 days, Mira. I saw you outside the memorial wall yesterday. He studies her, colleague and friend, visibly conflicted. Remember Elliot at the fundraiser concert? That Chopin nocturne we practiced for weeks. Him turning pages with that perfect timing. Chen's fingers mimic playing piano keys. When I asked how he knew exactly when, he said, "The music tells me," Mira finishes, throat constricting. "It gets ready to need more space." Chen places a blue folder on her desk. "You told Phillips to compartmentalize grief. That's not what you taught before." The patient demonstrated. "The patient was mirroring your strategy," Chen interrupts gently. "Look at your hands. The blue has spread past her wrists, pulsing with her heartbeat. That night, the blue door PULSES with its own tutha. Mira arrives for Jamie's third session to find him already seated. Today, he wears a blue sweater with wooden buttons instead of his usual suit. Her office temperature has dropped 10 degrees overnight. "Facility malfunction," she mutters, but her breath forms dense clouds. The second hand on her wall clock stutters. Tick, tick, stop, backward tick, then freezes at precisely 2:37. "Your calendar has transformed," Jamie observes. Blue ink has spread across her appointment book, forming distinct patterns. The Big Dipper, Orion, constellations she once traced on a bedroom ceiling. Irregularity in the ink compu. The words disintegrate before she can complete them. Her diagnostic vocabulary suddenly foreign. Letters rearranging themselves, still trying to diagnose away what you feel? Jamie asks. His features shift. Adult one moment, then child's eyes, gazing from adult face, then small fingers emerging from suit sleeves. How's that working after 300 days? The antiseptic smell intensifies. Hospital-grade disinfectant, coffee from a nurse's station, vending machine cookies. Her cream walls ripple. Hospital corridor, green bleeding through like watercolors on wet paper. Patient exhibits acute dissoc. She can't complete the word. The pen trembles between her fingers as blue ink pools on the page, forming tiny rivulets that flow toward her like seeking things. "You taught me about grounding techniques," Jamie says, his voice shifting higher. The hand gesture again. Index extended, thumb perpendicular. When things feel overwhelming, find 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch. "I never taught," Mira stops. She never met Jamie before 300 days ago. Statistical impossibility. Logical incongruence. Professional boundaries compromised. "When things get scary," he continues, features now unmistakably childlike beneath adult bone structure. "Find something solid to hold on to, like your hand when we crossed parking lots." Her bookcase dissolves completely, revealing hospital waiting area chairs. The leather beneath her fingertips becomes vinyl, cold, sterile. A water cooler gurgles in the corner where her ficus plant had been moments before. The clock face melts, numbers flowing into blue puddles. Her diplomas rearrange into memorial service programs. This represents functional. Clinical terminology evaporates mid-thought. Her desk transforms into the hospital admitting counter, where she'd stood precisely 300 days ago. Still hiding inside Harvard vocabulary? Jamie's adult clothing now hangs from a child's frame. Blue sweater with sleeves rolled 6 times. Pants puddling around small sneakers. Elliot's face now fully visible, only his eyes retaining adult knowledge. Does categorizing grief really make it go away? VANILLASHAPOO. Apple detangler. Chocolate milk breath. This isn't Her hands convulse, sending her pen spinning across the floor. This cannot. The pen bleeds blue across linoleum, spreading toward her in tributary patterns that form exact replicas of the constellation drawings from Elliot's bedroom ceiling. Rain hammers against glass. Rhythmic squeak thump of wipers fighting deluge. Her phone vibrates against her ear. Dr. Chen's voice, tense with urgency. "I understand this patient is in crisis," she hears herself say, "but I'm driving with my son. Can I call you back in 5? "Mommy," Elliot's voice from the back seat. "Do stars remember us, even when we don't remember to look at them?" A question deserving thoughtful response. Philosophical inquiry from a 5-year-old mind. Her eyes flick to the rearview mirror, his serious expression awaiting wisdom instead of to the road ahead. Her choice, her responsibility. Headlights through rain. Blinding. Impact. Metal screaming against metal. Her body thrown forward. Airbag deploying half-second too late. The silence after. "You treat this like a case study in your textbook," Jamie Elliott says, now entirely child-sized, but speaking with impossible adult knowledge. Is that easier than admitting you chose the phone call over watching the road? The words DIETONATE inside her chest. Breath fracturing. Pulse arrhythmic. 300 days of defenses disintegrating. Post-traumatic stress with language fails completely. Her vocabulary, once armor against emotion, now meaningless sounds against memory's tide. Hospital corridor stretches infinitely before her. Antiseptic burning her nostrils. Time frozen at 2:37 a.m. The moment unchanged despite 300 days of scientific distance. 300 days of personal reflection spent deliberately not reflecting. She reaches for Jamie/Elliot, but her hands pass through his form, encountering only absence. Not hallucination, but memory materialized. I wasn't. The truth rises like floodwater, threatening to drown her. clinical terminology evaporating, Harvard training useless against grief's undertow. I wasn't paying attention when it mattered most. Her hands shake uncontrollably. Blue ink flows across the floor, spreading from her pen, her notepad, her appointment book, all the places she's documented others' pain while refusing to acknowledge her own. My entire career, she whispers, helping others face what I couldn't bear to see. Mira finds herself kneeling on cold hospital tiles, forehead against sterile floor, professional identity dissolving in tears, suppressed for 300 days. I chose the phone call over watching the road. She confesses to emptiness, to absence, to irreversible consequence. The hospital corridor wavers, then dissolves. She's back in her office, familiar space rendered foreign by truth. Blue ink surrounds her, no longer threatening, but awaiting direction. Her diplomas, once sources of pride, now seem incomplete chapters in a larger story. She drives home through rain, no longer calculating statistical probabilities of hydroplaning, but feeling water against glass. Her clinical detachment, once armor, now recognized as barrier. Her hands on the steering wheel remember another rainy night, another drive, different outcome, same hands. Her apartment, meticulously controlled in whites and grays, appears through shifted perception, not ordered, but empty, not peaceful, but silent. 300 days of creating space that demanded nothing, remembered nothing, reflected nothing back to her. The hallway stretches before her. No more precise 60-degree turn. No more transient memory phenomenon diagnosis when vanilla scent registers. Tonight, she walks deliberately toward what she's avoided. The blue door pulses with its own heartbeat. Gentle rhythm, both inviting and terrifying. Blue light seeps beneath, casting underwater reflections across the floor. Her pulse accelerates. Tachycardia, 97 beats per minute. Old diagnostic habit. Same physical response. New understanding. She places her palm against the wood. Warm. Alive. An answering pressure, as if something, someone, presses back from beyond. I'm choosing to remember, she whispers, voice breaking, and turns the knob. Beyond isn't the sharp pain she feared, but a space where blues shift from midnight depth to dawn's gentle awakening. Stars hang suspended, constellations from a ceiling painted on a Saturday afternoon with small hands guiding hers. Not distant points, but presences casting soft illumination. The air carries forgotten scents. Vanilla shampoo, apple detangler, chocolate milk. Before bedtime, piano notes drift through blue. Chopin Nocturne, 4 hands at different octaves. Laughter when they missed transitions. Elliot sits cross-legged beneath Draco, his favorite constellation, because dragons should get to live in the sky too. He wears the blue sweater with wooden buttons she'd helped him fasten that morning. When he looks up, his eyes hold both childlike wonder and impossible understanding. "You finally came," he says simply. "I was afraid," she answers, professional terminology inadequate for the ache in her chest. His small hand reaches for hers. Warm pressure, simultaneously present and preserved from before. "I've been here the whole time. I'm sorry," she tells him, words carrying 300 days of avoided grief. "I looked away when I should have been watching the road." He nods, serious expression, exactly as she'd seen in that final rear-view glance. "You were helping somebody who needed you. That's what doctors do. Not more important than you," she whispers, voice raw. He considers this with child's directness. Maybe not more or less, just different. Like how we needed different sides of the piano bench to reach all the keys. She hadn't expected wisdom from loss, hadn't allowed possibility beyond absence. "Remember when I asked about stars?" he says, looking upward. "If they remember us when clouds come?" She nods, tears flowing without clinical categorization. "They do," he says with certainty. "Even when nobody's looking up, blue light pulses around them, not invading, but connecting. Stars above and blue beneath, creating space between memory and presence, where healing begins. Your patients need you to remember too," he says, child's voice with unchildlike insight. "Not just me, but what happened?" She nods, understanding forming from fractured pieces. Not compartmentalization, but integration. Not absence, but transformation. Not forgetting, but carrying forward. "I won't stop looking for you in the stars," she promises. His smile combines mischief with impossible wisdom. "Even when you forget, I'll remember. That's what stars do." When Mira awakens, dried tears trace her cheeks. Her office has transformed. Pearl gray walls now carry blue undertones that shift with changing light. Harvard credentials hang beside a child's drawing of constellations labeled "Me and Mommy's Star Map." The clock runs smoothly past 2:37, that moment acknowledged rather than avoided. On her desk sits a fountain pen filled with blue ink. Her deliberate choice now, not mysterious manifestation. Beside it, her appointment book with integration practice, replacing the blocks formerly labeled personal reflection. Not scheduled avoidance, but purposeful remembering. The phone rings. Dr. Chen about an urgent patient crisis. 300 days ago, she would have answered immediately. Today, she notes the time, 5:27 p.m. Elliot's astronomy club meets in her memory at 5:30. "I'll call back in 20 minutes," she tells the receptionist. I have an important appointment first. She allows herself to remember for exactly 3 minutes. Blue sweater, constellation maps, questions about stars, before returning to professional responsibilities with renewed presence. Later that week, a new patient sits across from her, describing familiar patterns. After my daughter's accident, I created separate compartments, the woman explains, fingers tracing invisible boundaries on the armrest. Work Susan never mentions Emily. Mother Susan only exists on scheduled Sundays, when I permit myself to visit her room. Mira recognizes her former self in this careful division. 300 days ago, she would have praised this compartmentalization as adaptive coping. Standard protocol suggests emotional containment during grief responses. Mira pauses, feeling blue ink against her fingertips. She deliberately sets her manual aside. Protocols have their place, she says, leaning forward slightly, but they can't account for how grief rewrites our internal maps. Compartmentalizing doesn't actually protect us. It fragments us. Integration doesn't mean constant pain, but allowing memory to exist alongside present moment. The woman's eyes fill with tears. How? By acknowledging both your professional competence and your profound loss, not as separate identities, but as equally true aspects of who you are now. Later, Mira opens her own case file. She writes, subject demonstrates initial success in memory integration. Professional identity remains intact while accommodating emotional truth. Continued practice indicated. She pauses, then adds, the stars remember us, even when we forget to look up. She signs the entry. Day 321. The blue ink catches light as it dries. Not the end of grief, but the beginning of carrying it differently. Death of the lilacs. I never should have opened that letter. But from the moment my fingers brushed the aged paper, thin and fragile, it seduced me. It all started on estate sale day. On any other Thursday, I would wake up crazy excited, strip out of my cotton PJs, and swap them for jeans and my gray V-neck, the one with vintage across the chest in fading white vinyl. I would appreciate the scent of the fresh lilacs that had just bloomed outside my window, their enchanting aroma drifting in as a passenger on the early morning breeze. Then I'd head out for a long, adventurous day of treasure hunting. There's something magical about rescuing a forgotten piece of furniture or trinket. It drives me, knowing that each piece will start a new life, absorbing new memories. It is intoxicating. But that Thursday, I woke up with an uneasy feeling that I immediately brushed off, assuming it was residual bad dream funk. Through my vintage lace curtains, I could see evidence of a cloudy day. doing nothing to brighten my spirit or improve my mood. And then there were the lilacs. This morning, their fragrance was thick, overpowering, and instantly turned my stomach. With an irritated mumble, I reached over and slid the window shut with a sharp thud. Pulling the blanket over my head, I heavily considered going back to sleep. However, 15 minutes later, I was dressed and headed out the door. Unheard of for me. It was as if I had somewhere urgent to be, but when I checked my calendar app, there was nothing booked. As I locked the door behind me, the heavy scent of the lilacs filled the air, overbearing and inescapable. They had sprung up from out of nowhere just a few weeks ago, their soft purple and white blossoms spilling over the wooden railing of my front porch. At first, I welcomed them, admired them, but now they felt invasive, their presence needling at my already fraying mood. I had been at the first sale of the day for about half an hour, and it seemed like a bust. After wandering from room to room, sifting through boxes and stacked containers of someone else's memories, I was just about ready to head to the next stop on my Google Maps list. As I stepped into the kitchen, I suddenly lost my balance and grabbed the long slab of butcher block countertop to steady myself. Instantly, my senses were overwhelmed. Years of long-forgotten Sunday morning breakfasts, afternoon bread proofs, and late-night Christmas cookie bakes. The heavy scent of bacon and coffee made me dizzy and hungry at the same time. I heard a child laughing and turned to see a little girl hiding her giggles behind a cupped hand as she pointed at Tom, chasing Jerry across the flickering screen of an old tube TV. Then a scream rang out, sharp and raw, echoing into my soul, almost as if it came from within. As I released my grip on the countertop, I spun around to see what had happened. Instantly, everything changed. The warm scents of breakfast were gone. The little girl, gone. The TV wasn't even plugged in, its frayed cord hanging eerily off to the side. It was just the humdrum sound of a normal estate sale, with people milling about and haggling the cashier with lower price offers. I just stood still, trying to breathe and make sense of what had just happened. Before I could grasp any ounce of stability, a sudden ding from the oven sent me nearly jumping out of my own skin. I bolted past the cashier and straight for the front door. "Edith," I stopped. My feet, my heart, and my breath. Everything just stopped. My body turned and drifted past the "Watch Your Step" sign as I felt pulled down the wooden steps into the garage. It sat still, empty of people, empty of life, yet oddly full of the scent of lilacs. Why couldn't I escape it? I hadn't been in this room yet. I had peeked inside earlier, but it seemed full of things I usually ignored. Pesticides, old mulch, motor oil, nothing that belonged in an antique booth. Yet here I was, drowning in the scent of lilacs with not a bloom in sight. Why had I come? I wanted to leave. All at once, sunlight pushed its way through the clear glass windows of the garage door, spilling onto a small, frail woman seated at the desk in front of me. The same desk that, just seconds before, had been buried beneath years of dust and piled high with empty boxes. An old ladder leaning against one side. All of that was gone now, and I could smell breakfast again. Edith, I work all day to put food on this table. You think it's gonna cook itself? The dark voice boomed behind me. I flinched, but couldn't tear my eyes from her. The woman turned and looked right at me. And then, after just a second of recognition, right through me, she turned back to the desk and in a swift, almost frantic motion, shoved a piece of paper into an envelope. I heard her whispering something, but the words were too soft to make out. "Damn it, woman, where are you?" came the voice from the top of the stairs. My instinct was to spin around, to see him, but my eyes stayed fixed on Edith. She was facing me now, her gaze moving down the staircase as he came down. "You know better than to keep me waiting," he said, his words rolling down the back of my neck like sap oozing from a wounded sweet gum tree. I resisted the urge to wipe it away. Edith slid her trembling hands into her apron. Her gray eyes hovered just above my head, steady in his direction. Slowly, her shoulders curled back, pushing her tiny frame to stand tall. Her chin lifted just enough to prove her fortitude. But the slow rise and fall of her chest wasn't from resolve. It was control, each breath measured to contain her emotions. "Yes, I'm sorry. I should have been more mindful of your time. The bacon's on now. I'll have breakfast ready in just a few minutes." I could feel his heat standing uncomfortably close behind me. The hair on the back of my neck lifted with each of his heavy breaths as he considered his reply. Finally, he muttered, "You'd better." The sound of his heavy boots grew lighter as he moved toward the stairs. Her eyes were back on me, not through me. She stood still for a moment, as if thinking something through. Then, as if she had made her decision, she turned toward the desk and opened the top left drawer. She looked at me again, then down at the drawer. I followed her gaze. With a careful hand, she slid the bottom of the drawer back, pulled the envelope from her apron pocket, placed it in the hollow space, and closed the drawer. Her gaze shifted to me once more, her eyes trying to tell me a story, calling my name. Her mouth opened, her expression full of apology, but no words came. As she took a step forward, the sunlight caught the iridescent trail of a single tear that had run down her cheek. My heart hurt for her. All at once, she was gone. The sun had vanished. The windows on the garage door had been painted over years ago. The acrid smell of gasoline, oil, and pesticides flooding my nose once again. I gasped and wiped my face, realizing that I, too, had tears streaming down my cheeks. I took a few steps toward the desk, my eyes locked on the drawer. My pulse quickened as I reached out to pull it open. "Miss, do you need help?" came a tiny voice from the top of the stairs. I jumped and screamed. Then she screamed. With our hands over our chests, we both burst into laughter. "I am so sorry, doll. I didn't mean to startle you. It's totally okay. I was in my own world." I took a deep, slow breath, in and out. "Actually, yes, I would like some help. I'm interested in this desk, but I don't see a price on it," I said, pointing to the spot where the woman had just been sitting. "Oh, that old thing is junk, honey. One of the drawers is stuck, and it's missing a leg." She turned to head back through the door. I looked at the desk, then back at her. "All the same, I'd love to take it off your hands. Would you take 20 for it?" She stopped and turned around. Her expression shifted. I could see the dollar signs in her eyes and a slight hint of a smirk on her lips. Then, just as quickly, it changed again to a look of faux concern. "Well, that did belong to the homeowner, and I am trying to get the family top dollar. I couldn't possibly let it go for $20, but I imagine they'd be okay with $50. Does that work for you?" $20 is usually my price point for old furniture. $20 and little to no damage, other than age. But she was asking $50, and it would need extensive repairs. Not that I was buying it for resale anyway. Honestly, I felt like I was out of mind when I agreed. But the next thing out of my mouth was, "Sure, 50 is great. Can I have someone pick it up in an hour?" Well now, that would be lovely. The edges of the woman's mouth curled into a slow, knowing grin, full of satisfaction, like a cat licking cream from its whiskers. 4 hours, 3 stops, and 2 cups of Java later, I was back home, where Jeff, my boyfriend, not boyfriend, was waiting in front of my driveway with the desk. "Sadie, what were you thinking? This is a piece of junk. Please tell me you got it for free," he grumbled as I slid out of my Jeep. He leaned against the bed of his truck, arms folded, looking cute, but not happy. "Oh, come on. You can see it has great bones," I said, resting my hand on the side of his face as I stood on my tiptoes and gave him a light kiss. He looked into my eyes, sighed, and wrapped his arms around me. "You owe me." I smiled. "Okay, where do you want this thing?" "Back porch, please. Why don't you go make us something to eat while I do your dirty work?" "You got it," I said with a wink. As I walked up the sidewalk, my stomach sank. The lilacs, so full and lush just hours ago, were dead. Their once vibrant petals had shriveled, decay clinging to them, burnishing the edges with shadow. Even though it felt morbid, I reached out to brush one with my fingertip. It crumbled to dust, carried away on the wind. I had enjoyed them while they lasted, until this morning. Now, an ominous feeling settled in my chest, hauntingly familiar, though I couldn't understand why. The scent had been overwhelming earlier, almost stifling, and while I didn't necessarily want them back, their sudden decay felt oddly personal. 10 minutes later, we sat on the back patio, eating lunch and staring at the desk. I debated whether I should tell him about what I had experienced earlier. We had been seeing each other for about 6 months, and things were going mostly okay. He didn't want to put a label on things, which felt like a little bit of a red flag. But I wanted to see where things went a little longer. He had some great qualities. Only time would tell if they outweighed the rest. I really did want things to progress between us, and they say communication is key. So I decided to tell him. As I told him the story, he ate his chicken salad sandwich and slurped his lemonade, his eyes fixed on me, except for the occasional glance at the desk. When my story was over, he wiped his mouth with one of my daisy-covered napkins, downed the rest of his lemonade, and said, "Well then, let's get this drawer open." He made quick work of the stuck drawer, and after searching for only a second, found the notch that slid back the false bottom. I couldn't believe it. The false bottom alone was a stretch, but seeing the letter sitting there in real life, insane. I reached into the drawer and picked up the envelope, my hands trembling, just as Edith's had, but for different reasons. The paper was aged, its edges rough and slightly brittle. I turned it over, lifted the flap, and slowly pulled out the lilac-colored paper, careful not to damage it. Hauntingly beautiful. It was clearly handmade, bits of lilac petals pressed between its uneven fibers. Should I open it? I glanced at Jeff. He shrugged. "That's up to you." I wasn't sure. Edith's eyes had been haunted, and while part of me felt like I was meant to open the letter, another part couldn't shake the sadness in her eyes. It lingered, heavy and unsettling. Still, something pulled at me, urging me to open it. Before I even realized what I was doing, I unfolded the letter, top first, then bottom. One single line stretched across the middle of the page. "I wanted to warn you. I was trapped. I am sorry." I read the line again. A wave of dizziness washed over me. I could smell bacon. The room was spinning. My stomach was sick. Somewhere in the distance, Jeff was calling my name, but it was faint, muffled. The air was thick, damp and dank, clinging to my skin like old mildewed laundry left to long in the wash. I couldn't breathe. I closed my eyes and tried to remember my breathing techniques. In for 5, hold for 4, out for 7. Or was it 8? Damn it. But my slow, deep breaths came out rattled. Reaching for the chair, I sank into it, resting my elbows on the table and my head in my hands. If I could just get my thoughts together. All at once, visions of an entire lifetime slammed into me. Emotions crashed through me, too many to name. I felt joy, then sadness, heard laughter, then a baby's first cry. My baby's first cry? But everything was coated in darkness. I opened my eyes. The lilac-colored paper lay on the desk in front of me, blank. My hand involuntarily moved, picking up a pen from nowhere. My breath was stuck in my throat, as in horror, I watched myself write. I tried to warn you. I was trapped. I am sorry. Sadie, I work all day to put food on this table. You think it's gonna cook itself? Jeff's voice thundered from the top of the staircase, just beyond the door leading into the house. My stomach dropped as a wave of realization hit me so hard I would have fallen if I weren't already sitting. I turned to face the young girl behind me. I already knew she'd be there. My eyes met hers, and I only knew of one way out. With trembling hands and a heart heavy with guilt, I hurriedly stuffed the letter into the envelope. A single tear slipped down my cheek as I whispered, I never should have opened that letter. Runaway bride. Hopping onto a random train in the middle of the night was not the best idea Elise ever had. Not her worst, but a close second to when she was 13 and slept in the library overnight, only to wake up surrounded by cleaning pixies, surrounded by luggage and the smell of old clothes. She shifts her legs to avoid having them fall asleep before the train reaches the next stop. In other carts, there are no doubt people dining and laughing with glasses of champagne in their hands. She wishes she could join them in their revelry, but leaving her hiding space in a torn, dirt-stained wedding dress won't bring her the right sort of attention. Elise only wanted to be sure that no one had altered it without her knowledge, like her mother-in-law-to-be threatened to do when she failed to convince her to wear her gaudy dress from her own wedding. She didn't expect to hear screaming from the adjacent room when she tested how it fit. Glass bottles filled with wine for the guests breaking against the adjoining walls, the cries only stopping at the sound of a sickening thud. Her groom's voice only relieved her for a moment before she heard it discuss where to dispose of the body. She acted on instinct, opening a window and running until she found the train ready to depart. Tears come unbidden after what feels like centuries, thinking of only escape and surviving. Her plans of marrying the man of her dreams are now as broken as her heart. Her eyes grow heavy after her sorrow drains her of tears that further stained her once beautiful white gown. Not even the pain in her blooded feet could keep her awake as adrenaline faded from her body, replaced with exhaustion. Time passes her by as she slept, leaving her ignorant to the moment when the train stops and she's no longer alone. Someone large and strong grabs her, pulling her forward to the point where she nearly falls. Despite her panicked cries, Elise is dragged across the floor, her body already sore from her escape, her limbs unable to move from the mixture of fear and defeat. This is it, my end. They'll take me back to the estate, if not the chapel. My murderous groom will say I'm just a frightened bride with cold feet. And then it will be my body buried somewhere unknown. No one will know I'm missing until I'm nothing but bones. They take her into a train cart filled with people in fancy clothes, tossing her into an empty booth, her head falling against the window, exposing the darkness she used to cover her escape. She doesn't recognize the area behind the glass. Nothing but trees with no sign of human influence. Despite the throbbing in her skull, Elise turns her head to the gawking crowd staring back at her in confusion and horror, their meal interrupted by her unexpected entrance. Only a lone man in a trench coat and wide-brimmed hat has a neutral expression when looking at her. "Is this everyone?" the man asks a uniformed man, the one she assumes brought her here. "Yes, sir. All the passengers are accounted for, and our stowaway." "Any sign of the necklace?" "No, sir." The man in the trench coat sighs in frustration. Elise shrinks into herself as the eyes surrounding her seem to search through her soul. "Who is she?" one whispers. "I don't know. I don't recognize her." "Wait, isn't there a wedding this morning? The Von Gray and Carlyle families, right? It can't be Elise Carlyle. She wouldn't be caught dead in such a state. Besides, why would she be running from her own wedding? They've known each other for years. Elise opens her mouth to explain everything, yet no words would come. Try as she might, the only sound she can make is a strangled cry. The man in the trench coat walks down the small path separating the row of booths, hands behind his back in thought. Everyone else remains where they are, their panicked whispers filling the small space with dread. "Detective, what are your plans?" someone asks. "I already have the train staff searching for the missing jewelry. The conductor is aware of this, and I've informed him to keep the train here until the necklace is found. If the thief wishes to reach Bridgeway, they will have to confess. Otherwise, we'll wait until the local police arrive to interrogate everyone." The chatter rises to frustrated protests. The person who dismissed her identity, a middle-aged woman with a large hat decorated with silk flowers, rose from her seat. "This is preposterous. I have somewhere to be, and being fashionably late isn't an option. If I'm not in the pews at the chapel with the other guests, when the bride walks down the aisle, the shame will ruin my reputation and standing in society." The detective ignores her outburst to write down something in his notepad. The older woman, realizing her declaration failed to sway the detective, reaches for her purse, opening it and searching until she pulls out a hand mirror. Its metal frame shaped into soft vines with glowing stones for flowers. Elise recognizes her seeing mirror as the work of a famous artisan in Bridgeway, the place where the chapel awaited her, and what she once thought would be the start of her new life. The older woman leaves her seat, not making any effort to hide what she's doing from the detective or the other passengers. If he suspects something, he doesn't show it as he eyes the passengers. The older woman finds a small corner with an empty booth, turning her back to the others as she presses the flowers and whispers a few words to connect with another seeing mirror. Elise can only see a flash of light from the mirror before the detective takes position across from her, blocking her view. Care to answer some questions? Elise tries once more to speak. And again, only a sound of pain escapes her lips. The detective's hardened expression shifts slightly as she pretends to write with an invisible pen on the table. Here, you can use mine. Now, first question, how did you get on the train? Elise writes down a few words. Open door, got on before the train left. And why did you get on the train? Running away. Heard a murder, groom and groomsmen. Don't know who was killed, but was scared. Your future husband and his groomsmen killed someone? What else can you tell me? Screaming, fighting, glass shattering, silence. Then groom says they need to hide the body. The detective continues to ask her questions, Elise responding with what few words she could conjure from her mind without fear settling in. When the interrogation is over, Elise feels hollow, yet despondent. The detective thanks her for her cooperation, moving on to a passenger in a heavy wool coat. Yet, before he could ask a single question, two things happen at the same time. A uniformed woman enters the train with a necklace of flawless diamonds in hand, and the older woman throws her mirror against the wall. The detective springs into action, reaching the staff member in seconds. The older woman turns her attention to Elise, her expression changing from rage to concern. She approaches Elise while the others are distracted with the reveal of the missing necklace. You're Elise, aren't you? Elise nods, hope rising in her chest. Oh, I should have known. The older woman returns to her snobbish attitude in an instant. Of course, when I connected to my cousin's mirror, she was certain nothing was the matter, or she would have told me. With this theft of your wedding gift, I worried I would be late, so naturally, I had to give the bride a proper blessing to alleviate the results of my tardiness. And when the mirror was given to the bride, you won't believe who I saw. Did the Von Gray family servants think so little of me that I wouldn't recognize one of them from the times I've spent with their mistress? The dress wasn't even embroidered. She pats Elise's head as if she were a child while it swirls in confusion at the news. Poor thing, forced to play in a foolish man's game. No doubt he believed the veil would hide her identity until the priest declared them husband and wife. No matter, everything will be revealed soon enough. I told my cousin to inform your mother that your groom has a convoluted plan to wed another woman of a lowly station. Once we reach Bridgeway, all will be well. Elise is not certain the older woman's assumptions are correct, but the thought of salvation is enough to set her mind at ease. Once the train resumes its journey, the passengers return to a modicum of normalcy, talking about mundane things as they ate their now cold food. Elise's own appetite returned as she dined with the older woman, as she spoke of the scandal that will erupt once the truth is revealed. With time, the wheels break upon the rails as the station of Bridgeway comes into view. The familiar face of her mother, eyes stained with sorrow, light up once Elise races onto the platform into her warm embrace. Nature or nurture? Sensitive content, serial killers. Nature or nurture? That is the question. Before today, I thought I knew where I stood on the issue. But now, friends, I am not really sure what to think. To give you context, a few weeks ago, after Mother passed, I was finally able to clean out her bedroom. The medical equipment was, of course, quite pristine, but the smell and debris from her glacial demise was simply overwhelming, and it took me days to clear paths in the room. I found the letters in her closet. Even now, it takes me a moment to adjust myself to the mental impact of those pages and pages of her precise Palmer script, describing in the most flowery of language a lifetime of barely requited love. The only mention of me in any of the letters was it, as in, I can get rid of it. My cold, sterile, demanding mother spent decades writing the most passionate and absolutely painful to read, lurid letters to her one-time lover who never once responded. The wrinkled envelopes I found in an old Avon perfume box, each bearing a scarlet ink, return to sender, returned from the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it just preyed on my mind, and I could not get the thoughts out of my head until I took action. Perhaps you may relate to this, perhaps not. So, friends, I eventually found myself in somewhat of a fugue state, an hour into the 2-hour drive up north from Dallas on 75 to US 69, which leads to Penitentiary Street, and then to the Big Mac, a maximum security prison once known for its annual prisoner rodeo, now infamous for its terrible conditions, riots, and death row prisoners, one of whom could be my father. To visit anyone at the Big Mac takes some time. Visiting someone like Louis Landry Reese takes time, and one's absolute forbearance for the most intimately probing of questions and fingers. It wouldn't surprise me if you hadn't heard of Louis Landry Reese and his swath of known and unknown rapes, kidnappings, and killings. But you will be able to find all you want with a few searches. Maybe you know exactly who he is. Driving under the peeling, white-arched grille Oklahoma State Penitentiary sign, buttressed by decaying, similarly painted white bricks pillars, I pulled into one of the few designated parking spots for Big Mac visitors. I turned off the Volvo's engine and sat for a moment, perhaps a bit longer than a moment, with my mind ticking to different thoughts about how maybe today I would finally learn who my father really was, about how Mother would never talk about him, about how she would punish me when I kept asking and asking, and about how Brandy, my old receptionist, would tease me about Volvos being only for short-haired women who shopped at Home Depot. After a bit, the rising sun. Visitors to the Big Mac must arrive very early. Warmed up the air in the car to the point my face began prickling with sweat, and I was brought back from my reminiscing. I opened the door, swung my legs out, and made my way to enter the prison. As I mentioned, the passage from our daily world to that of people such as Louis Landry Reese is rife with probing exams, delays, and grunting guards who entertain themselves with snickering under the breath asides. In the Shawshankian depths of the Big Mac, the black and blue rayon bulk that was my escorting guard halted at metal door exactly like the dozen we had already passed. He turned back toward me and asked without much concern, "Are you sure?" It is true, friends. I am not a physically intimidating person. Not tall, not wide, not much hair, nor chin. With my decidedly pointed nose and very small teeth, Mother thought it the height of ironic hilarity that I chose the dental profession. A squealing mouse is what she called me, although, to be fair, I learned at a very young age that squealing, no matter how much pain or discomfort, only prolonged such experiences. So squealing is something I have not done in a very long time. I stood straight and focused on how I was a respected professional, how I would be walking out of this dank hellhole of sweating brick and would never ever return, while Louis Landry Reese would only leave feet first. How I would finally find out the truth. "Open the door," I whispered. Greasy tendrils of hair leaked from his scalp, down his shiny face, onto pale, meaty forearms, creating a tangled and ripped curtain through which I could see a silver blue eye cutting from me to the closing door of the room and back to me. As the door shut, he lifted his head up, and I was absolutely shocked to see his sunken and caved face with a navel of puckered mouth. Louis Landry Reese had no teeth, literally. Then I heard the strangest sound, like a dog choking and barking at the same time. It was me, laughing hysterically. Lewis. Landry Reese did not appreciate my levity. Friends, not at all. He tried to stand, but the chains around his wrist went through a steel loop, bolted to the table, kept him stooped over as he shouted at me. The harsh, ratcheting sound of the chains sawing back and forth through the loop assaulted my ears almost as much as his gummy-mouthed curses. The whole episode lasted only a few moments before a phalanx of guards rushed into the room, with one picking me physically up and setting me outside. To be frank, I do not really remember much too clearly from that point. I numbly followed the uniform in front of me and fuzzily collected my belongings before staggering into the Oklahoma sun. I made my way to the Volvo and began the drive back to Dallas. The shrieked words of my father still ricocheting between my ears, and he was indeed my father. One look at his face and those colorless, watery blue eyes that were identical to my own left no doubt, at least to me. I think Lewis Landry Reese thought so too, even though he screamed the most terrible things about Mother and how I was just a dentist and not like the others, which is why I was so stunned and really driving on remote control until I got back to Dallas and pulled off Harry Hines into my driveway. The implications of Lewis Landry Reese knowing my occupation meant he knew of me. But what did he know about me? I was thinking this over as I went to the basement to check on Brandy. She had finally stopped trying to pull her wrists from the restraints, but it seemed she had really stopped doing much of anything. Even when I clicked the pliers together, she barely trembled. That was disappointing. But since Brandy was down to her last 3 teeth, 16, 24, and 41, it was probably time to discharge her and find my next patient. I tell you all this, friends, because contrary to the rantings of Lewis Landry Reese, I am not just a dentist. I am the dentist. And Lewis Landry Reese also said the others. So, I am posting my story on this dark website as a message in the bottle to see if maybe I have family, others like me, to ask, what do you think, nature or nurture? Epitaphs to Elsa, September 8th, 1986. Elsa, it's just me now. Just me and the waves. I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe I just want to believe you can still hear me. The boat is quiet without you. I keep thinking I'll hear your footsteps in the cabin. That soft little shuffle you made when you didn't want to wake me. But I know better. You're not here. And I did that. I miss you. God, I miss you. You never should have stayed with me, Elsa. You should have let me rot the moment you saw what I was becoming. But you never ran. Not when the hunger started. Not when my skin came apart. Not even when you saw what I would do. You should have run. You saw it. That thing inside me. It doesn't care what I want. It doesn't care how much I fight. I don't want to remember them, but I do. That old fisherman just happened to be in the wrong place. He looked me in the eye and knew something was wrong. I saw the way his face tightened before he turned to run. It didn't matter. It happened too fast, and he split apart like a red, stained driftwood after they reached him. I didn't want to hurt any of them, but you know what I am, and you know the worst of it. The only thing in this world that can kill me. Water. The sea, the rain, even a goddamn puddle. You said it was poetic, that all we needed to do was wash the sins away, and that would be it. I wish I could tell you I'm sorry and have that be enough, but I know that it isn't. My mind is slipping. I thought I heard you earlier, but when I turned, there was nothing but the water. I can feel it starting to itch beneath my skin again. I must attend to its needs until morning. Leon, September 2nd, 1986. Leon, I woke up from a terrible dream and could not tell where I was, nor even when I was. For the longest time, I thought I was still in our cabin, with the warped floorboards and the leaky window that rattled in the wind. I thought I heard the waves outside, but they were too far away. I sat up and reached for something, but there was nothing. No warmth, no weight, just a hollow feeling. And then I remembered you. I used to think I could live in your shadow forever, that it was enough to stand between you and the world, to hide what you had become from those who would have tried to take you from me. But you never really belonged to me. You belonged to it. I fed you. I kept you safe and suffered with you. And still, in the end, you left me here. I think I was angry. I still might be. You say you miss me, that you never wanted this, that you never wanted them to die. I believe you. You don't have to look for me. I'm already here. Elsa, September 9th, 1986. Afternoon. Elsa, this isn't real. You're not real. I don't know what kind of madness has settled into my head, but I know what I saw. There is no one on this boat. I searched every inch, Elsa. Every cabin, every hatch. There aren't even footprints, not a single sign that anyone but me has been here. And yet, your letter was waiting for me in the same place I left mine, in your handwriting. Exactly your handwriting. Where are you? What do you mean you're already here? No. No, I won't do this. I won't chase ghosts. I won't let my brain rot on the deck of this damned boat, waiting for another letter to appear out of nowhere. Not when I can still feel the scars where it broke through my skin last night. Raw, burning, until I fed it with something I brought on board. I'll leave this here for you, if only to prove to myself that I'm not completely unraveling. Maybe a drink will help. Leon, September 2nd, 1986. Leon, I can't see the sunset the way I used to, but I know you can. You always liked that time of day best. As the light faded over the horizon, the world softening, I remember watching you, even after you changed. I wanted to believe that if I just held on to you long enough, you would come back to me. I thought love could keep you human. Do you remember what you are, who you have become? You remember the killing, but not the hunger. Do you recall what happened before I died? You used to say that the sea was patient, that it takes its time, wearing things down piece by piece until all that's left is what it chooses to keep. You think you're drifting, waiting to decide how this ends, but you're wrong. You will never truly die here, not unless you sink. Elsa, September 9th, 1986. Sunset. Elsa, you dated your letter September 2nd. I don't know what kind of joke this is. If this is my mind breaking, or if this is actually you, or if there's no difference anymore. But I know that date. That's the day after you died, and I killed you. I need to say it. I need to write it. I need to stop hiding from it like a coward, because I remember now. I remember the way you looked at me when you realized what I had become. I remember you tried to save me, tried to save them. I remember the knife in your hand and the tears in your eyes when you begged me to just let it end. I remember that you weren't fast enough. I remember the way you screamed when I touched you, the way your body turned to ruin beneath my hands, the way you stopped fighting when you knew there was nothing left to fight for. I remember the moment you stopped being afraid of me. I remember everything, Elsa, and you were right. I am not human anymore. You said the sea is patient, but so is the thing inside me. It waits. It watches. It lets me write these letters like I still have control, like I still have a choice, like I could ever truly leave this boat. But I know better now. I know what I have to do. This time, I'll finish what you started. Leon, September 3rd, 1986. Leon, you stayed up waiting for me, didn't you? You always used to do that when we were kids. You'd sit up by the window, refusing to sleep until I came back inside. I used to think it was sweet. Now I think maybe you always knew, even before you became this, that you were meant to be alone. I see now that I should have left you alone too, but I stayed and cleaned up after you, wiped their blood from your body, covered for you every time that thing leaked out from beneath your skin. I thought I was protecting you, but I wasn't. I was keeping the monster alive, and that's why you killed me. You can stop pretending now. You remember everything. I tried to end it before it could spread. I would have done it if you'd let me. You should have let me. Instead, you turned on me. You let it break me apart, like all the others. You wept and rocked what was left of me, like I was still yours, like I hadn't just died in your arms, and in some twisted way, maybe I am still yours. But that doesn't matter now. You have one thing left to do. Come visit me where I am now. That is the right thing to do. Love, your sister, Elsa. September 10th, 1986. Elsa, yes, you know me best. I stayed up all night waiting for you. I watched the page, scotch in hand, eyes burning. I wouldn't sleep, not until I caught you in the act and saw how you did it. But I must have drifted off, because when I opened my eyes, your letter was there, and your last words shattered me. You were my sister, my only sister. You were always there, watching over me, covering for me. You loved me when no one else could, and God damn it, Elsa, I loved you too. We were alone, together, for so long. Maybe that's why it happened. Maybe that's how we fell into something we shouldn't have. Maybe that's why you still stayed after I changed. Why you still brought them to me. I never asked you to do it. But I never stopped you either. And now I see why. Because I was happy. I was happy when you fed me. I was happy when you lied for me, covered for me, hid me. I was happy when you were the only one in the world who saw me for what I was, and still stayed. And I thought that was enough. But you knew better. You knew that as long as I was out here, I wasn't just Leon. I was it. I was the thing that wears me, the thing that spreads itself through my hands, my mouth, my breath. You knew what had to be done, and I stopped you. And now I have to finish it. Elsa, after reading your last letter, I tried something. I let the water touch me. Just a few drops at first. Just enough to test what you told me. And I watched my own skin blacken. I watched it peel away, curl like burnt paper, dust scattering into nothing. And for the first time since that night, I felt something leave me. Something I can never let return. I know what I have to do now. I should have done it a long time ago. I'll see you soon, Elsa. Leon. September 15th, 1986. Radio transmission. U.S. Coast Guard Channel. So 8:42 a.m. DST. Yeah, this is Patrol 6 out of Newport, responding to a distress call. We've located the vessel approximately 17 nautical miles offshore, drifting. No signs of life on board. Copy. Unintelligible reply. Copy. Yeah. We're boarding now. The name on the hull matches the missing vessel reported out of Washington last week. Belonged to one Leon Mathers. Yeah. The suspect in the Olympia killings. Still no sign of a body. Over. Hang on. Christ. Do you smell that? Muffled voices. Jesus. It's in the fog. Thick as hell. The air. God, it's like it's sticking to my skin. Unintelligible reply. Boats in rough shape. Some flooding in the lower cabin, but no visible damage. No sign of struggle. Looks like it's just been out here drifting. There's a letter on the table. Several, actually. We've got personal effects, ID matching Mathers, a sudden sharp breath. Shit. No body, no trace of him. But we found part of someone. It's a leg. Left, severed mid-thigh. Not clean. No ID yet. Yeah, we'll check the water next. Shuffling, movement. The soft slosh of waves lapping against the hull. Oh, hell. Sir, you need to hear this part. Listen, there's something in the water. Around the boat. Not oil, not debris. It's dark. Black as ink. Looks like it's mixed with the waves, but it's thicker. Like it's trying to hold its shape. God, it's moving. No, I'm serious. It's bubbling. It's a pause, a quick breath. Alive. Chunks in it. Carbon, maybe. But some of them, another sharp breath, some of them are floating against the current. A quiet, shaken voice in the background. It's watching. Sir? Orders? Unintelligible reply. Collecting samples now. We'll tow the vessel back to port. End transmission.